Chapter 560. After a moment of humility, the two of them looked at the demon god with anticipation in their eyes. Obviously, the two of them had used little six fingers and loose skills before, so they knew how powerful they were. Now, they were waiting for the demon god to teach them the remaining parts of little six fingers and loose skills. Take it. The demon god did not go back on his words. He pointed with two fingers and gave the remaining parts of little six fingers and loose skills to Jiang Chun and Muyuda. The two of them were satisfied and smiled at each other again. I'm almost done, the demon god said. It's enough for me to live for a long time. Jiang Chun's face fell when he heard this. He's already full? To be honest, Jiang Chun did not want to see the demon god eat until he was full. If he was full, he would not help them. When the enemies of the celestial flow realm came to find them, who would they look for? Senior, why don't you eat more? Muyuda had the same idea as Jiang Chun. He said, I've also found a few young people. They're all strong, have high cultivation, and have a long lifespan. It's very nutritious. Yes, enough. Eat until you're full, Jiang Chun said hurriedly. However, the demon god shook his head and said, no need. My lifespan is enough to wait until my master wakes up. When he wakes up, I'll be able to leave the land of the fallen and absorb the essence of heaven and earth. I won't need to eat blood anymore. But Jiang Chun frowned and started to worry. Helping the demon god find blood food would offend a lot of people, not to mention the 18 families. Just the Lu family alone would not let Jiang Chun go. If the demon god did not help them, the Lu family and the 18 families would come to find them. Jiang Chun and Muyuda would be dead for sure. Moreover, they had originally planned to borrow the demon god's hand to weaken the strength of the 18 families. Now that the demon god was full and did not help them, could the local sects of the celestial flow realm fight against the 18 families? Obviously not. If they couldn't, then how could outsiders like Jiang Chun walk out of this bloody path? One had to know that the checkpoints leading to the end of the bloody path were all blocked. I know what you're worried about. Don't worry. The demon god smiled. I will tell the descendants of those 18 traitors they will not be too presumptuous. But you can't get out of the fallen land. Will they believe your words? Jiang Chun asked. It's up to them whether they want to listen or not. But if they don't listen, they should understand the consequences when Master and I leave the fallen land. The demon god said. With that, the demon god waved his hand, indicating that Jiang Chun and Mu Yud could leave. Are we leaving just like that? Mu Yud was not satisfied. He still wanted to get a few more Dao techniques from the demon god. Now that he had left just like that, and only obtained a book of minor Sanshou, his mood wasn't that great anymore. Senior, we helped you so much, and you only gave us a book of minor Sanshou and minor Sanshou. Isn't this a bit stingy? Jiang Chun said weakly. Besides, I already called Jiu Yuan master, but he didn't give me a greeting gift. That's right, Mu Yud muttered. He's the demon god, but he's the demon god king. Isn't he too stingy? With your cultivation, even if I give you other Dao techniques, you won't be able to use them. The demon god said, times have changed. In the past, as long as you were a cultivator, you could cultivate Dao techniques. But now, in this era's environment under this kind of great Dao, the requirements to cultivate Dao skills are too harsh. The demon god explained, it's already very good that the two of you can cultivate one Dao technique. It's useless to give you more. Then, at least give us something to protect ourselves? Jiang Chun didn't give up and left just like that. Didn't I give you a fire rod earlier? The demon god said. However, as soon as he said this, the demon god realized that he had spilled the beans. He quickly corrected himself and said, I gave you a divine weapon earlier. Isn't that enough? Senior, you spilled the beans yourself. Muyid said angrily. Will that fire rod work? You even used such a vulgar incantation. Can we really use it? That's right. Other things aside, just the fact that I called Jiu Yuan master is enough for you to give us something good. Jiang Chun said in a low voice. It's always others calling me master. I've never called anyone master. The demon god frowned slightly when he heard this. He seemed to be in a difficult position. However, at that moment, two rays of light shot out from the depths of the fallen land. Then, a bag and a heavenly halberd landed in front of Jiang Chun and Mu Yud. Heaven-earth bag? Mu Yud was stunned for a moment, but quickly reacted. He grabbed the heaven-earth bag and refused to let go. Jiang Chun's reaction was a beat slower. He could only pick up the heavenly halberd and say with slight disdain, "This thing is too ordinary, isn't it?" Things given by Master are never ordinary. The demon god said with a strange expression, "If you don't want this heavenly halberd, give it back." Wait, why does this heavenly halberd look so familiar? Jiang Chun was stunned. He looked at the heavenly halberd in his hand and studied it carefully before he realized what it was. Isn't this the weapon that I used in my third life? However, Jiang Chun saw in the previous image that the weapon of his third life seemed to be broken. Could it be that Jiu Yuan helped him repair it? You two brats. I've finally found you too. At that moment, a dozen heavenly human powerhouses flew over from afar. Before they arrived, a cold voice could be heard. Senior, this? Jiang Chun was shocked. He looked at the demon god and said, "Look, we haven't left yet, and our enemies have already come knocking on our door. Senior, you have to do something about this matter." Mu Yud hurriedly said. He saw that the group of heavenly human powerhouses were hostile and aggressive, as if they were going to swallow them alive. You've come at the right time. At this moment, the demon god waved his hand and looked at the dozen or so celestial beings. From today onwards, the 18 clans and their sects are not allowed to attack these outsiders, nor are they allowed to obstruct their path to the end of the bloody path. Who do you think you are? Although you're the demon god, you're trapped in the land of the fallen. Do you think we're afraid of you? One of them said contemptuously. By the way, we're here today to tell you something. Throw Broken Mountain out of the land of the fallen. Otherwise, we'll do everything in our power to destroy the land of the fallen. Oh, is that so? The demon god was stunned. He had lived for so long, and not many people dared to speak to him like that. Moreover, the demon god himself did not mind, but his master would probably be angry. Chapter 561. Don't think you're so great just because you're a god. You should know that you can't come out now. Another heavenly human raised his eyebrows. If we don't get close to the land of the fallen, you can't do anything to us. Why should we listen to you? Oh, if that's the case, then I can't do anything. The demon god shrugged helplessly. That's right. If you don't get close to the land of the fallen, I can't do anything to you. But when I get out, you'll know how serious the consequences are. When you come out, we'll have long left the bloody path. Someone said. However, as soon as he said that, he saw an eye suddenly open in the depths of the land of the fallen. The eye was turbid and filled with mist. Blood dripped from it. It was as if the eye was sealed by something. Now it was forced open. My name is Nine Abyss. The next moment, an old but extremely domineering voice came from the eye. However, after he finished saying those words, he closed his eyes and disappeared from this place. Only 3 breaths of time had passed since the eye appeared and disappeared. However, in these 3 breaths of time, the dozen or so celestial realm powerhouses were frightened and terrified. Even their souls were trembling. It was as if they were being stared at by death. In those 3 breaths, they felt endless fear and the aura of death. It was as if they had taken a trip to hell. Jiang Chun and the others did not feel anything, because Nine Abyss was not targeting them. However, for the heavenly human powerhouses, that feeling was worse than death. My master's temper is not very good. You seem to have disturbed his sleep. The demon god said mockingly. So, what do you think? We will obey the god's will. We will obey. At that moment, the heavenly human powerhouses agreed. Among them were the leaders, elders, and patriarchs of 18 families. However, these people didn't leave after they agreed to it. They were very unwilling, especially when they looked at Jiang Chun and Mu Yud. Their eyes were filled with murderous intent. Lord Demon God, the older generation like us will not bully the weak, but the competition between the younger generation. Someone said, Oh, that's not a problem. The god fiend smiled. It's not a problem for a battle between those of the same realm. After these words were said, Jiang Qin's expression could not help becoming odd. A battle between cultivators of the same level? Heh. Then who would be able to kill him on this bloody path? Even if there were only a handful of them. In that case, thank you, Lord Demon God. Thank you. We'll take our leave. In the end, the Deva experts left. On the same day, the 18 clans issued orders that all of them, as well as their subordinate sects, were not to bully the weak, and were not to target outsiders like Jiang Chun. Of course, the 18 clans wouldn't be so courteous to the local sects of the celestial flow world. It was also on this day that the checkpoints leading to the second half of the Bloody Path were cleared. Many cultivators came out one after another after hearing the news. They could finally walk openly on the Bloody Path. At this moment, Jiang Chun and Mu Yud had also left the Fallen Land and were preparing to enter the first checkpoint, the Blood Jade City. However, before they reached the Blood Jade City, they heard a piece of news. Within the 18 clans, all of the top cultivators of the younger generation had been mobilized and were preparing to fight those outsiders. Now only a few days had passed, and hundreds of outsiders had died. Although there were more than tens of thousands of people who had entered the Bloody Path, those who could reach the middle section and survive until now were all powerful prodigies. Among them, there was no lack of people who could be crowned as peerless prodigies. However, according to the news, more than a dozen peerless prodigies had already died. Even the Dark Holy Sun was being hunted down by one of the prodigies of the 18 clans for some unknown reason. No one knew if he was dead or alive. It seems like the 18 clans still haven't given up, Muyid said in a low voice. So, what if they haven't given up? Broken Mountain has been moved to the Fallen Land. If the 18 clans can't break the seal, they can't leave, Jiangchen said. Now, we just have to take care of ourselves. That's true. Muyid nodded. However, just as Muyid finished speaking, Jiang Qin's and Mu Yud's expressions changed as they both thought of the same thing. If they could use an array to move Broken Mountain into the Fallen Land, then why couldn't the 18 clans use the same method to move Broken Mountain back? It had to be known that the 18 clans had deep foundations, and there was no lack of people with high attainments in arrays. Moreover, they had enough materials to set up an even more perfect array. Whether or not the 18 clans will be able to leave the Bloody Path is still unknown. It is still uncertain, Jiangchen said in a low voice. The only thing I can be sure of right now is that the Blood Jade City is no longer safe. Just as Muyid finished speaking, he felt a youth watching them from the top of the Blood Jade City's walls. This youth wore a green robe and held a white jade staff in his hand. Elemental fluctuations undulated around him like a tide. An upper-level god realm, arcane master. Mu Yud's expression turned serious as he said, "He seems to be waiting for us to enter. What are you afraid of?" Jiangchen raised his brows. In the same realm. Who is afraid of who? That makes sense. Mu Yud nodded as he pushed Jiangchen and said, "You are not afraid. You go in first." "This king is not afraid," Jiang Chun said with a serious expression. It was time to show off in front of this unscrupulous Taoist. However, just as Jiang Chun took a step forward, he saw a sky full of ice and fire falling from the sky. Moreover, a blood-colored lightning bolt as thick as a water bucket descended from the sky. If not for Jiang Chen's timely reaction, he would have been hit by all these arcane skills. If that happened, he would have been injured. Wait, this arcane master is very difficult to deal with. Let me handle him. At this moment, Muyid said seriously. Then he pulled Jiang Chen back and dashed onto the city wall. Jiang Chen was stunned for a moment as he thought, what's wrong with Muyid? Did he change his personality? However, in the next moment, Jiang Chen's expression darkened. Behind them, 3 upper-level God Realm swordsmen and 1 upper-level God Realm martial master were rushing towards him. Muyid, you son of a bitch! Jiang Chen roared as he realized that he had been tricked by Muyid. Do you dare to fight me one-on-one? At this moment, Jiang Chen suddenly looked back. His energy soared. He gazed at the 4 geniuses at the upper level of the divine realm. Boom! Boom! Unfortunately, the four didn't reply and attacked as soon as they saw Jiang Chun. Several streaks of sword aura pierced through the void like dragons and rushed towards Jiang Chun. There was also a thick fist aura mixed with the aura of the earth. It was as if the earth itself was hanging upside down, causing the void to distort and gradually collapse. Chapter 562. Jiang Chen's expression turned serious as he felt a trace of threat. One had to know that these youths were the prodigies specially sent out by the 18 families. They were extremely powerful. These youths were worthy of the title of peerless prodigy. Although Jiang Chun was strong, it was difficult for him to gain the upper hand in a fight against a true peerless prodigy. Not to mention, there were four of them at the same time. Moreover, they were all stronger than Jiang Chun. However, there was no way Jiang Chun could escape just like that. What a headache! Jiang Chun sighed. I don't want to kill. However, the four youths completely ignored Jiang Chun. Sword radiances and fists rained down, instantly engulfing Jiang Chun. Following a series of explosions, smoke and dust rose into the air. A terrifying power spread out like a ripple. After a few breaths, when the smoke and dust dissipated, the four youths' expressions turned serious. They saw Jiang Chun standing where he had been, in perfect condition, like a vigorous ancient tree. He stood tall and straight. His hair danced in the wind. There was a trace of mockery in his eyes. My physical body is comparable to divine weapons. Can you hurt me? Jiang Chun mocked. Why don't you try again? One had to know that although Jiang Chun found it difficult to gain the upper hand against these youths, his physical body was extremely strong. After fusing with the immortal bird Dao Soul, his body flowed with the immortal fire. Furthermore, Jiang Chun had fused with the physical body of his third life. His physical body had become even stronger. It could be said that his physical body was invincible in the immortal realm. In this state, even if Jiang Chun could not kill his opponents, he would be invincible. This physical body, let's not waste any more time, one of the youths whispered. Then his gaze fell on Mu Yu De, who was still fighting with the arcane master. Kill as many as you can, another youth said. Then he charged towards Mu Yu De with a sword in hand. Immediately afterwards, the remaining youths followed suit. Damn, what's going on? Why are they all here to kill me? Mu Yu De exclaimed as he was instantly drowned out by sword projections, spell techniques, fist projections, and palm prints. He let out a blood-curdling scream and even shouted at the top of his lungs, Jiang Chun, help me! Help? How can I help? Jiang Chun said angrily. These people are not ordinary people. My cultivation is below theirs. How can I help you? If you're not going to help me, are you going to watch me die? Mu Yu panicked. He was powerless against these peerless geniuses. If no one helped him, it wouldn't be long before he died in the hands of these people. Speaking of which, the physical body of my profound sky divine king. Jiang Chun raised his eyebrows. When are you going to give it to me? I'll give it to you as soon as we leave the bloody path. Mu Yu said hurriedly. As he spoke, his shoulder was pierced by a spell. Blood sprayed out like a flower. Are you sure? You're an unscrupulous Taoist. You can't prove it with words, Jiang Chun said mockingly. He wasn't worried that Mu Yu De would be killed. Even if Mu Yu De couldn't defeat his opponents, he could still run away. The reason why he didn't run away was probably because he had other plans. I swear, after I leave the bloody path, I'll give you the physical body of the profound sky divine king. Mu Yu De panicked. His chest was hit by a palm print, and blood sprayed out for more than 3 feet. That's right, Jiang Chun said with a smile. Then he raised his hands and formed a fist seal. After a few breaths, the chi of the 6 paths exploded. 6 stars of different colors appeared behind Jiang Chun. These stars exuded the chi of the 6 paths and the power of reincarnation. In the next moment, Jiang Chun swung his fist. The power of the 6 paths exploded, and the fist radiant shot out like a dragon. Boom! Boom! After a few explosions, 2 youths were blasted back. while the other person was knocked unconscious on the spot. However, the arcane master was extremely powerful. He waved his staff and summoned an ice chelan. With a roar, it shattered the six-fist radiances. "What?" Jiang Chen exclaimed. The fist of the six paths of reincarnation was extraordinary. It was one of the strongest martial skills in the world. To be more precise, it was a divine skill. Fist of the six paths of reincarnation? Heh. The arcane master sneered and said, "So what if it's just the fist of the six paths of reincarnation?" A long time ago, this divine skill could only be regarded as trash. "Oh, do you mean?" Jiang Chen spoke softly as he stared at the youngster. He even looked out of the corner of his eye at the summoned ice kylan. In this world, the strongest skill is neither a martial skill nor a divine skill, but a Tao skill. The arcane master chuckled as a trace of arrogance flashed across his eyes. "And what I cultivate is an ice-type Tao skill." "Oh, so you also know doctrine techniques." Jiang Chen looked relieved, but a sarcastic smile appeared at the corners of his mouth. "Tao skill? Your Tao skill can only fight to a draw with my fist of the six paths of reincarnation. It must be a mediocre Tao skill, right? You will never understand how deep the foundations of my 18 families are." The arcane master proudly said, "My 18 families have 2 Tao skills." "Whoa, so many?" Jiang Chen exclaimed in surprise. Next to him, Mu Yud wore an odd expression. Waving his hand at Jiang Chen, he said, "I'll stall the others. I'll leave this arcane master to you." However, just as Mu Yud finished speaking, the arcane master suddenly attacked. A minor scattered hand shot out. His palm dispersed into the air like a cloud of mist. When the palm reappeared, it was like a golden millstone as it ruthlessly smashed into the arcane master's body. The arcane master was immediately knocked back. His physical body exploded, leaving only his divine soul burning in the air like a candle in the wind. He was dumbfounded. He never imagined that Mu Yud, who had promised to stall the others, would suddenly attack him. Moreover, that move was clearly a Tao skill. "Little brat, do you think you are the only one with a Tao skill?" Mu Yud disdainfully said. "If not for the fact that there were so many of you, and I could not find the time to use my minor scattered hands, you would already be a corpse. How can you know a Tao skill?" The arcane master solemnly said. Only his divine soul remained, but the essence within his body was still there. As he spoke, his divine soul emitted a boundless radiance as his physical body was regenerating. At the same time, the arcane masters who had been knocked back by the fist of the six paths of reincarnation rushed over and protected the arcane master. "Hand over your ice-type Tao skill in exchange for your life," Jiang Chen straightforwardly said. He had long since taken a fancy to the arcane master's ice-type Tao skill. Although the ice-type Tao skill was much weaker than the minor scattered hands and little six fingers, it was still a Tao skill. At the very least, it was stronger than ordinary divine skills. "You must be dreaming," the arcane master angrily shouted. His physical body had already been reconstructed. Afterwards, he waved his staff and formed a seal with his left hand. Ice and snow began to descend from the sky. Chapter 563. No matter how weak a Tao skill was, it was still a Tao skill. It was much stronger than ordinary divine skills. At this moment, the arcane master had someone protecting him, so he could use his Tao skill without worry. Ice and snow fell from the sky, distorting the air. Everything in the surroundings was frozen. In fact, even some of the weaker people in the city were frozen and turned into ice sculptures. Jiang Chen and Mu Yud were trembling. Despite their strong bodies and vigorous vigor, they still felt a bone-chilling coldness. "This little brat's Tao skill is very strong," Mu Yud solemnly said. "The others are nothing to be afraid of, but this brat is difficult to deal with." "Aren't you talking nonsense?" Jiang Chen unhappily retorted. He knew he had underestimated the arcane master. He originally thought the arcane master's Tao skill was weak, but he didn't expect the ice and snow to be so strong that even his saint body was unable to withstand it. turn into ice sculptures and freeze here for all eternity. The arcane master roared. He abruptly pressed his staff towards the void, causing ice and snow to erupt. A frigid aura filled the air, as if it wanted to freeze everything. It was as if an ice apocalypse had arrived. Jiang Chun had the immortal fire flowing within his body. In addition to his powerful physical body, he was able to resist for a while. However, Mu Yud had nothing. He was currently trembling from the cold. His face had turned purple, and the power within his body had been frozen. He seemed to have turned into a cripple as he trembled on the spot. His eyes were filled with shock. His neck was frozen stiff. He struggled to turn around and look at Jiang Chun as he trembled and said, "This king knows a great secret. If I don't die, I will tell you. Do you think I can let you die?" Jiang Chun unhappily retorted. The immortal fire within his body erupted, and a portion of it enveloped Mu Yud's body. Next, Jiang Chun narrowed his eyes and looked at the youths before him. He slightly raised his eyebrows and said, "There are probably not many people left alive inside or outside the city, right? Under my Dao skill, who can block it? In order to kill the two of you, I would rather freeze this blood jade city." The arcane master's voice turned cold as he looked at Jiang Chun and Mu Yud as if he was looking at two corpses. Jiang Chun smiled. Curling up the corners of his mouth, he said, "So, you mean there's no one around? Wang." As his voice fell, a blue lamp began to burn in the depths of Jiang Chun's soul. The next moment, the myriad change heavenly lamp rose from the depths of his soul and landed on top of Jiang Chun's head. The green lamp burned slowly, and it seemed to be able to illuminate the past, present, and future. It emanated an indescribably obscure aura. "It seems like times are changing. I'm unexpectedly forced to use the myriad transformations heavenly lamp by you," Jiang Chun spoke softly. As he waved his hand, the lamp's flame condensed and turned into a sword beam. Chi! The sword light sliced through the void, as if it wanted to shatter the universe. The frost that filled the sky was shattered by this sword, turning into a bright rain of light and disappearing into nothingness. At the same time, the expressions of the youths from before were forever frozen. Myriad change, heavenly lamp, myriad change, heavenly slash. One slash, and everything turned into nothingness. What the hell? What is this? Dao Soul? Mu Yud was shocked as he stared at the myriad change, heavenly lamp above Jiang Chun's head. After carefully examining it, he exclaimed, "The myriad change, heavenly lamp is already lit up. Do you have a problem with that?" Jiang Chun mocked. After putting away the myriad change, heavenly lamp, he patted Mu Yud's shoulder and said, "Do you want to try a myriad change, heavenly slash?" "Yes." Mu Yud sucked in a breath of cold air as he secretly thought, Jiang Chun really hid his strength well. If not for the fact that he met a peerless prodigy who mastered a Dao skill today, Jiang Chun would have continued acting like a coward. No, I'm not used to eating this thing." Mu Yud hurriedly shook his head and walked to Jiang Chun's side. He massaged his shoulders and asked, "Boss, do you need a pendant? Something to warm your bed? You can even carry a piss pot." "Get lost." Jiang Chun looked at Mu Yud with disdain and asked, "You just said that you know a big secret. Why don't you tell me now?" "All right." Mu Yud finally reacted and said mysteriously, "I know how to get to the Eternal Fortress." Jiang Chun narrowed his eyes and stared at Mu Yud. He unleashed his divine consciousness and enveloped him. He asked again, "You really know?" Under Jiang Chun's terrifying divine consciousness, Mu Yud would be exposed if he lied. Mu Yud also knew this. He nodded and said, "I really know." "How do we get there?" Jiang Chun asked. "There's an ancient teleportation altar at the bottom of the Wangchuan River in the Zhou dynasty." Mu Yud said, "But it's been in disrepair for a long time. I don't think it can be used anymore." Speaking up to here, Mu Yud poked Jiang Chun's shoulder and said sneakily, "But with your skill in arrays, you should be able to repair it, right?" "I can try." Jiang Chun nodded. He was also very curious about the Eternal Fortress. What kind of place was that? Why were all the secrets he knew now related to the Eternal Fortress? It was as if the eternal fortress was the source of all the secrets. Perhaps when he reached the eternal fortress, the fog would dissipate and all the secrets would appear before him. After we leave the blood path, I will go to the Wangchuan River with you. Jiangchen said, let's see if the teleportation altar can be repaired first. If it can, I really want to go to the eternal fortress to take a look. What about now? Muyid asked. Now? We're on our way. Jiang Chun grumbled. That arcane master used Ice Seal to freeze the entire Blood Jade City. None of the living creatures inside survived. They were all frozen to death. Now that there were no more obstacles in front of them, what else could they do? However, before that, Jiang Chun arrived in front of that arcane master and used a secret skill to understand the arcane master's skill. Afterwards, Jiang Chun shared with Mu Yud that this brat didn't know any arcane skills. Then I'll use it myself, Jiang Chun whispered. He was proficient in all professions. How could a mere arcane skill compare to him? I'm so envious. Mu Yud sighed. How could there be such a monster in this world who is proficient in all professions? Say, do you think the road ahead will be easy? Jiang Chun and Mu Yud entered the Blood Jade City and went straight to the trial site. Along the way, Mu Yud was a little worried. None of those who had survived until now were weak. In addition, the 18 families had sent out their top prodigies. The road ahead would be even more difficult. What are you afraid of? Jiang Chun teased. He patted Mu Yud's shoulder and said, if you can win, then fight. If you can't win, then use the myriad heavenly lamp. If the myriad heavenly lamp doesn't work, we'll run. Mu Yud sternly said, no, it's a strategic retreat. With our power, how can we run? It doesn't exist. That's reasonable, Jiang Chun said with a smile. He looked at Mu Yud as if he was a promising kid. Chapter 564. If they wanted to pass through the celestial flow boundary and enter the latter part of the blood path, they had to collect all 5 passes. And these 5 passes were in the 5 stages of the trial. Jiang Chun and Mu Yud entered the Blood Jade City and went straight to the main city. The trial site was inside. However, when they entered the main city, they saw that the altar at the trial site had been destroyed. It had been turned into ruins. F***CK. Is this something a human would do? Mu Yud cursed. His face was as dark as stagnant water. If the altar was destroyed, they could not enter the trial, let alone obtain a pass. Without a pass, they could not pass through the boundary wall of the celestial flow boundary and enter the latter part of the blood path. Most importantly, since the altar at the first stage had been destroyed, the altars at the remaining stages must have been destroyed as well. The 18 families are ruthless, Jiang Chun said in a low voice. What should we do now? Without the pass, we are trapped in the celestial flow boundary. Maybe there is another way, Mu Yud said. However, it was Mu Yud's first time on the blood path. He was not as familiar with the situation as Jiang Chun. However, although Jiang Chun had entered the bloody path once before, he had followed the rules and walked all the way to the end of the bloody path. He did not know what other way there was. There must be a way. Jiang Chun sighed. He did not know what to do at the moment. At that moment, a young man stepped into the main city. When he saw Jiang Chun and Mu Yud, the young man was stunned. Then, he did not say anything. He glanced at the destroyed altar and frowned. It's really destroyed. Looks like the 18 clans aren't willing to let us outsiders go. My friend, do you know of any other way? Mu Yud walked up to the young man and said, I see that you are handsome and powerful. You must know something. Why don't you share it with us? My friend? Handsome and powerful? The young man's face darkened. He glared at Mu Yud and said, is handsome and powerful used to describe a woman? Jiang Chun and Mu Yud were dumbfounded. This young man in front of him was indeed very handsome. On top of that, his chest was incomparably calm, and when he spoke, his voice was as hard as iron. Such a person was a woman? Am I blind? Or are you too stubborn? Then, how should I address you, fellow Taoist? Mu Yud asked awkwardly. Chon. She looked away from Mu Yud and toward Jiang Chun. She said, many people are looking for you. Oh? Do you want to take revenge on me? Jiang Chen asked. No. Chao Mu shook his head and said, earlier, you were crowned by the heavens and robbed of the fortune of heaven and earth. All living beings were affected. The heavens had crowned the heavens, depriving the heaven and earth's luck to strengthen one's body. In this way, in this world, unless Jiang Chen agreed or Jiang Chen died, it would be impossible for anyone in this generation to become a god. This was tantamount to destroying the hope of the masses to become gods. In fact, many heavenly deterioration stage 5 powerhouses in the outside world were frowning bitterly. That was because some of them clearly sensed that the tribulation was coming, but it did not come even after a long time. They also could not sense the presence of a god. They also knew that someone had used a lost secret technique to crown the heavens. Currently, the outside world was looking for the thief who had used the heavens to crown the heavens. On the bloody path, many people were also looking for Jiang Chen, hoping that he could undo the heavens crowning technique. I was forced to do it back then, Jiang Chen said with a wry smile. If I hadn't been crowned by the heavens, I would have died long ago. Now that you are no longer in danger, can you undo it? Chao Mu asked. Why should I? Jiang Chen raised his eyebrows and said mockingly, why should I undo it? If I don't become a god, no one else in this world can. If I kill you, the heavens crowning technique can be undone, Chao Mu said. However, Jiang Chen found it hilarious. When he first entered the bloody path, Jiang Chen was indeed very weak. After all, his cultivation level was too low. Now he had also stepped into the godly state. Although he was only at the lower level of the godly state, he was still not afraid of anyone, especially the cultivators who entered with him. Jiang Chen was not afraid of any of them, unless those cultivators who had already broken through to the heavenly realm attacked him. However, even if they were heavenly realm powerhouses, Jiang Chen still had a way to deal with them. After all, he had merged with the body of his third life. When the time came, he would just fight to the death. I also don't want to cut off the path of all living beings, Jiang Chen said. However, before I undo the heavens crowning technique, I must first have the ability to protect myself. Otherwise, why should I undo it? Jiang Chen asked. Chao Mu nodded slightly. He knew that Jiang Chen had his concerns. However, Chao Mu's next sentence made Jiang Chen hesitate. I'm from the Chaotian sect. My ancestor is about to become a god, Chao Mu said. However, you used the heavens crowning technique. My ancestor couldn't wait for the godly tribulation to descend, so he couldn't become a god. Chaotian sect? Jiang Chen was stunned. He looked at Chao Mu with a strange expression and asked, that Chaotian sect? Which one? Mu Yud was curious. Which one was that? Yes, it's a sect that you casually set up 3,000 years ago before you became a god. Chao Mu smiled bitterly and said, you didn't expect this, did you? The sect you casually set up back then has become a giant on the godless continent. Huh, that's interesting. Jiang Chen's eyes narrowed. His face darkened slightly, and he said, now you all know my identity, right? Yes, including the outside world. Chao Mu nodded. Since everyone knows, does that mean I'm the founder of the Chaotian sect? Jiang Chen asked. Chao Mu nodded when he heard this. This was a fact that he had to admit. When he saw Chao Mu nodding, Jiang Chen could not help but feel a surge of anger in his heart. If you all know I'm the founder of the Chaotian sect, why didn't the people from the Chaotian sect come to my aid when I was in trouble at the bloody path? Now that your ancestor is about to ascend, you're thinking of me? Ha! The outside world only knew about your identity after you entered the bloody path. Chao Mu said, as for the bloody path, we've been looking for you since we found out about your identity. However, you've been hiding. Me? The corner of Jiang Chen's mouth twitched. According to Mu Yud, that was a strategic retreat. Hiding? Do you know how to F Asterisk King talk? Cough cough, you'd better watch your words when talking to your founder. Mu Yud couldn't take it anymore. He coughed a few times and said, by the way, I'll tell you that the founder of your clan and I are sworn brothers. Sworn brothers, if you see me in the future, you have to call me Ancestor Yud. Chapter 565. Chao Mu ignored Mu Yude and fixed her gaze on Jiang Chun. She asked in a pleading tone, "Can you undo the crown of firmament?" "I told you no." Jiang Chun shook his head. "Are you kidding me?" If the crown of firmament was undone, Jiang Chun's battle prowess would drop significantly. Now, not only did he have to face the trial takers, but he also had to face the peerless geniuses of the 18 clans. Under such circumstances, undoing the crown of firmament was the same as committing suicide. "Can I bring you to the second half of the bloody path?" Chao Mu asked. Jiang Chun and Mu Yude exchanged glances with each other. Their eyes flickered with astonishment. Did Chao Mu really have a way to enter the second half of the bloody path? How did she know? However, now is not the time to worry about that. They should be thinking about how to enter the second half of the bloody path. If they could not leave the bloody path, they would be trapped in it forever. "You should know my situation, right?" Jiang Chun said in a deep voice. "If I remove the firmament crown, my fighting power will be greatly reduced. If anything happens to me, or if I run into any danger, what should I do?" "I'll help you," Chao Mu said seriously. "Although I'm not invincible on the bloody path, I can still help." "Hayu?" Mu Yude squinted. He did not believe Chao Mu's strength. She was a woman, and her cultivation was only at the upper tier of the immortal realm. How strong could she be? Even if she was strong, which one of the people still alive was not strong? What's the point of being strong? There were plenty of people who wanted Jiang Chun's life on the bloody path. "If you don't undo the crown of firmament, I won't bring you to the second half of the bloody path," Chao Mu said in a deep voice. She was forcing Jiang Chun's hand. Jiang Chun chuckled when he heard this. He waved his hand and said, "You can leave now. You don't want to reconsider?" Chao Mu said, "You're the one who established the Chaotian sect. Now that the Chaotian sect's ancestor wants to ascend to the God realm, are you sure you don't want to help him?" "Help? Why should I help you?" Jiang Chun said coldly. "You have never helped me, so why should I help you?" "If that's the case, then there's nothing more to say," Chao Mu said softly. She glanced at Jiang Chun, then turned and left. Mu Yude frowned and said, "Are we letting her go just like that? If we suppress her and force her to tell us the method to enter the latter part of the blood path, she will definitely tell us. She's a disciple of the Heaven sect after all." Jiang Chun sighed. "Let's think of another way. However, a solution could be thought of, but the key was whether or not it could be thought of." "Should we ask the demon god?" Mu Yude suggested. Jiang Chun shook his head after hearing this. Ask the demon god? That fellow, now that he had eaten his fill, he was probably already asleep. Furthermore, it would be a waste of time to go back now. "We'll wait here," Jiang Chun said. "Those trial takers will definitely come here. When they see that the trial altar has been destroyed, they will definitely think of a way." "Then what? Think of a way with them?" Mu Yude smiled bitterly. "Isn't that too difficult? If Chao Mu knows how to enter the latter part of the blood path, then there will definitely be others who know," Jiang Chun said. "When the time comes, we'll suppress them one by one and see if we can get anything out of them." "That makes sense." Mu Yude nodded. Then the two of them hid in the main city and waited for the trial takers to come. 2 days later, a young man came here. When he saw that the altar had been destroyed, he couldn't help but roar. This roar immediately made Jiang Chun understand that this young man most likely had no way to enter the latter part of the blood path. Since that was the case, there was no need to make a move. Time continued to pass. Jiang Chun and Mu Yude continued to hide here. However, 10 days later, the two of them had suppressed a total of 15 trial takers and released more than 30. They still didn't know how to enter the latter part of the blood path. "We shouldn't have let that woman leave in the first place." Mu Yude was a little anxious. "If this continues, we'll really be trapped here." The 18 families have been trapped in the blood path for several generations. They definitely know how to enter the latter part of the blood path without a pass. Jiang Chun pondered. "But they definitely won't tell us. Perhaps we should ask the local cultivators of the celestial flow world," Jiang Chun said. The local cultivators of the celestial flow world were born and raised here. Naturally, they were very familiar with the blood path. Perhaps they knew how to enter the latter part of the blood path. However, as mentioned before, The people of the celestial flow world were somewhat hostile to outsiders. Unless there were special circumstances, they didn't need to help outsiders like Jiang Chun. Sigh, if Lu Yong and Lu Zhu were here, we could ask them. Mu Yud sighed. Those two were both powerhouses and local cultivators of the celestial flow world. Perhaps they knew something. However, since the war between the celestial flow world and the 18 families, almost all the sects in the northwestern region were destroyed. Lu Yong and Lu Zhu were nowhere to be found. No one knew whether they were dead or alive. Let's go for a walk first. Jiang Chen sighed. They could only take it one step at a time. A few days later, the two of them arrived at a small town near the Blood Jade City. As soon as they arrived, Jiang Chun heard a piece of news. Something had happened to Nanming. Nanming? Beiyuan and Nanming? Jiang Chen's eyes narrowed. Weren't those two places where Nianchanga's two comrades were sealed? If something had happened there, did that mean that Nianchanga had already started to rescue his comrades? At this thought, Jiang Chen made a prompt decision to go to Nanming to find Nianchanga. Nianchanga is the ancestor of the Chong and clan. His memory is intact. He definitely knows how to enter the latter part of the blood path. Jiang Chen thought. Immediately, the two of them got up and flew toward the southern border of the celestial flow world. After flying for 3 days, the two of them arrived at the southern border of the Dead Sea. However, there was no one there. There were many corpses floating in the Dead Sea. Some belonged to the 18 clans, and some belonged to the local cultivators of the celestial flow world. There was a big battle here? Jiang Chen frowned. His eyes shone with the brilliance of the sun and moon as he looked toward the depths of the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea was Nanming. The seal hasn't loosened. Nianchanga hasn't released the seal, Jiang Chen said in a low voice. Looking at the corpses in the Dead Sea, it was obvious that the 18 clans had stopped him. Where is Nianchanga? Mu Yid asked. That guy is very sneaky. I think he has slipped away. Jiang Chen sighed. He really wanted to find Nianchanga now. Boom! Suddenly, there was a loud explosion in the distance. Someone was fighting. Jiang Chen and Mu Yid dashed over immediately. When they arrived at a mountainous area, they saw several strong celestial beings attacking Nianchanga from all sides. Chang'an, you've already escaped and rescued Zaitsong. You still want to release the others? Dream on. Don't even think about saving you, Muba, and the other two. Several heavenly human realm cultivators shouted angrily. One of them even stabbed a long spear at Nianchanga. Nianchanga had destroyed his 36 lotuses because of Jiang Chun. As a result, his fighting power had been greatly weakened. Now, facing these heavenly human realm cultivators, Nianchanga was obviously at a disadvantage. Moreover, he was seriously injured. Chapter 566. The destruction of the Tao Soul had a great impact on Nianchanga's combat strength. Moreover, when Nianchanga broke out of the seal, she must have been injured. Otherwise, she would not have sealed her physical body in that relic to be nurtured. In this way, her physical body was incomplete, her internal injuries were still there, and her Tao Soul was destroyed. Although Nianchanga's current strength could be considered as a peerless genius, it was still not enough to fight against several heavenly human realm powerhouses. Boom! At this moment, Jiang Chun did not say a word. He rushed out directly. Above his head, the ever-changing heavenly lamp appeared, and a sword radiance burst out. The cold radiance made the surroundings as bright as day. The sword radiance seemed to freeze the 9 heavens. Puff! Puff! After a few muffled sounds, the heads of these heavenly human realm powerhouses were cut open on the spot. Even their divine souls turned into ashes and disappeared. At this critical moment, you still have to rely on me, Jiang Chen said with a smile. He walked to Nianchanga and helped her up. He asked, "How are you? Are you okay?" I feel bitter. Nianchanga looked terrible, especially when she saw the ever-changing heavenly lamp above Jiang Chen's head. Her face was as black as ink. What's the matter? Jiang Chun was stunned. Why was Nianchanga feeling bitter? Did something big happen? You destroyed 2 Tao souls, and now there's only one left. Nien Changa muttered with an aggrieved face. She looked like a resentful woman. I only destroyed one, but now I don't have a Tao soul. Tell me, if my 36 lotuses were still here, you wouldn't have to deal with these heavenly human realm cultivators. How could I be injured? The more Nien Changa spoke, the more aggrieved she felt. If she were not a man, she would have burst into tears. Jiang Chun was also embarrassed. He patted Nien Changa's shoulder and comforted her. It's okay. You're very strong, even without your Tao soul. I feel bitter. Nien Changa was furious. She stared at the ever-changing heavenly lamp above Jiang Chen's head and wished she could break it. What's the situation now? Can't Nanming's seal be broken? Muyud walked over and asked curiously. When Nien Changa heard this, his face immediately darkened, and a murderous look appeared in his eyes. After separating from Jiang Chun, Nien Changa had been working on this matter. He had thought that everything would be ready, but who would have thought that the 18 families were already prepared? Not only did they strengthen Nanming's seal, they even sent many Devatir powerhouses to guard this place. When Nien Changa came here, she didn't even have the chance to get close to Nanming, let alone break the seal. That's a good thing. Muyuda's eyes narrowed as he said excitedly, Isn't strengthening the seal a good thing? What do you mean? Nien Changa glared. Could strengthening the seal be a good thing? After all, who was sealed inside Nanming? That was an ancient giant. The sealing power used to seal such a giant was already extremely powerful. Now that it had been strengthened again, how could an ordinary person break the seal? However, Muyuda shook his head and smiled. Weren't you worried that the two giants from Nanming and Beiyuan wouldn't be able to survive and would die in there? That's right. Nien Changa nodded. It's been so long, and they can't absorb energy from the outside world. They've been holding on with their own strength, so... Muyuda raised his eyebrows. If the giant from Nanming is really dead, why would the 18 families strengthen the seal? There's only one way to strengthen the seal, and that's if the giant from Nanming isn't dead. Nien Changa was stunned for a moment, and then excitement appeared in his eyes. Not dead. Of course, that's the best. However, the 18 clans in Nanming had sent many celestial tier powerhouses to strengthen the seal. Although the giant from Nanming wasn't dead, it would be extremely difficult to break the seal. Leave this matter to me. Muyuda's expression turned serious, and a hint of arrogance appeared between his brows. I'm the successor of the Thieving Heaven sect. Do you understand the Thieving Heaven sect? Muyuda poked Nien Changa's shoulder. Do you understand? Aren't you just a tomb raider? Jiang Chun snapped. His body as the mysterious Sky Supreme Being and Nien Changa's body were both stolen by Muyuda. This guy was simply a grave robber. Speak nicely. Muyuda's expression darkened. He coughed a few times and said seriously, even a thief is a code. F***CK off. Get out of my sight. Jiang Chun and Nien Changa were furious when they heard this. What do you mean by, even a thief is a code? King stole our bodies. Is this considered as stealing on behalf of the heavens? We can't enter Nanming directly, but we can dig a tunnel. Muyuda was very embarrassed, so he decided to speak his mind. Just like how they moved Tianshan Mountain, they would dig a tunnel to the deepest part, all the way below Nanming. Then, they would dig up from below Nanming until they reached the seal. Then, they would slowly think of a way to break the seal. Jiang Chun and Nien Changa's expressions became even stranger when they heard this. They cursed in their hearts. Tomb raiding is still useful. Bastard. Then what are we waiting for? Hurry up. Nien Changa urged. Although my comrade is still alive, I don't think he can hold on for much longer. After such a long time, his energy must be extremely weak. Don't worry. We don't need to prepare at all to dig a tunnel. We could do it now. Muyuda rubbed his hands, and runes appeared one after another. The next moment, he grabbed Jiang Chun and Nien Changa's shoulders. The three of them faced downward, and after a burst of light, the three of them went underground. Slow down? It's so dark. Can you slow down? What if you bump into something? Won't you be in pain? Jiang Chun and Nien Changa were shocked. They thought to themselves that this bastard was really good at digging tunnels. Afraid of being in pain? Don't you feel guilty? Muyuda said grumpily. Between Nianchanga and Jiangchen, which one of them had a weak body? If the two of them collided with the primordial divine crocodile, the primordial divine crocodile would be killed. What's wrong with digging a tunnel now? Are you worried about bumping into a rock? If you really hit a rock, and it really hurt you, then you will definitely be rich. What kind of rock is it that can cause you two to feel pain from hitting your bodies? It must be immortal metal. By the way, the trial altar has been destroyed. We can't get a pass to leave the flowing heaven realm and enter the latter part of the blood path. On the way, Jiangchen frowned and asked, "Do you have a way? Why are you asking me for such a small thing?" Nianchanga pursed her lips. There are many passes in the Skirich Temple. We could just get a few of them. This... Jiangchen and Muyuda were dumbfounded. They were in the flowing heaven realm. How could they get a pass from the Skirich Temple? But soon, Jiangchen remembered that when Zaitsong was born, Nianchanga seemed to have taken Zaitsong away from the blood path and sent him to the Skirich Temple. In this way, it meant that Nianchanga could freely move back and forth between the outside world and the bloody path. What the F*** CK? She's not cheating, right? Chapter 567. Nianchanga naturally didn't have that ability, but his master, Taoist Heavenspan, did. His master's origins were mysterious. He only knew that he stayed in the Heavenspan temple and never went out. However, Nianchanga knew how terrifying Taoist Heavenspan was. That guy had completely transcended the 3 realms and the 5 elements. In Nianchanga's mind, if his master wanted to go somewhere, no one would be able to stop him. But it was also because of this that Nianchanga was even more puzzled. Why did his master stay in the Heavenspan temple? With his strength, once he came out, what could the godless continent do to the martial pavilion? Even if he entered the 9 firmaments divine world, Taoist Heavenspan would be able to do well. Don't worry, I'll send a message to my master and ask him to send in a few passes, said Nianchanga. Then he suddenly smiled and said indifferently, "Don't worry about not being able to leave here. At most, we'll ask my master to take us out. Since your master can come and go freely, why don't you ask him to save you Muba and the others?" asked Jiangchen. Sigh. Who knows? Nianchanga sighed. It wasn't that he hadn't discussed it with Taoist Heavenspan, but the other party gave him the cold shoulder and didn't say anything. As such, Nianchanga could only do it himself. "We're here." After half an incense stick's time, Muyud whispered. They were now below the southern underworld. This place was pitch black, like an abyss. Above their heads was a dense fog. It was as if it was a void, and above that fog was the southern underworld. "The seal here? I'm afraid it won't be undone without 10 days to half a month." Jiangchen frowned and inspected the seal as soon as he arrived. "So troublesome?" Nianchanga shook his head. 10 days to half a month is too long." "Yes, it is." Jiangchen nodded. This was because after arriving here, they could clearly sense that the life force of the Overlord in the southern underworld was almost depleted. He wouldn't be able to hold on for more than 5 days. If the seal couldn't be undone within 5 days and the Overlord was rescued, then he would die without a doubt. Is it possible to unlock the seal within 5 days? Nianchanga looked at Jiangchen with worry in her eyes. 5 days is not a problem, but I don't have that many materials on hand. Jiangchen smiled bitterly. A seal could be considered a type of formation, restriction, or boundary. It could be said that seals were created by fusing formations, restrictions, and barriers. Breaking a seal was like breaking a formation. Not only did it require a deep understanding and attainments in formations, but it also required a lot of materials. But now, Jiangchen had no materials in his hands. "Do you think these are enough?" Nianchanga waved his hand and took out a lot of things, including several divine weapons. From the looks of it, he was probably trying to break the seal by force. "Not enough." Jiangchen shook his head. "Although there are many things, not many of them are useful. Tell me what you need. I'll go to the Heavenly Palace to get it," Nianchanga said hurriedly. water of all creation, heavenly heart and earthly fire, 9 nether cold ice. Jiangchen listed a lot of materials. The more he spoke, the worse Nian Changa's face became, because he had never heard of some of the things Jiangchen wanted. He didn't know if the heavenly palace had those things. If you want to unlock the seal within 5 days, you need these materials. Jiangchen said, if you can't get them, then you'll have to wait for the overlord to be buried. You go first. I'll go to the heavenly palace. Nian Changa was anxious. She took out an ancient token and made a seal with her hands. A transmission formation immediately appeared. Then, Nian Changa stepped into the transmission formation. With a flash of light, she disappeared. This thing is good stuff. Mu Yud's eyes lit up. He stared at the ancient token and said, this is the 6 Realms token. 6 Realms token? Jiangchen was confused. He had never heard of this thing. The so-called 6 Realms token was created by a supreme expert at the beginning of the world, Mu Yud said. It is said that there were 6 realms at the beginning of the world. Those who have the 6 Realms token can enter and leave the 6 realms at will. As for small realms like the Blood Road realm, you can enter and leave at will. No one can stop you. Zhang Chen's eyes lit up when he heard her. He was thinking about asking Nian Changa for a 6 Realms bulletin. However, the most important thing now was to unlock the seal. Then, Jiang Chen calmed himself down and started to unlock the seal. Mu Yud was bored. He stood aside like a fool and did nothing. He just looked at Jiang Chen. 2 days later, the materials left by Nian Changa were used up. However, only a part of the seal was unlocked. I don't have any more materials. With my own strength, I won't be able to open it without 10 days or half a month, Jiang Chen sighed. Buzz! As soon as he said that, a ray of light flashed from the teleportation altar. Then, Nian Changa appeared and threw down a pile of rare treasures. I've found everything I can find. The only thing missing is the heaven's heart and earth fire, Nian Changa said in a low voice. I'm only missing the heaven's heart and earth fire. It shouldn't matter, right? It doesn't matter, Jiang Chen said with a strange expression. Do you know what the heaven's heart and earth fire is used for? I don't know. Nian Changa was stunned. He knew nothing about formations. How could he know what the heaven's heart and earth fire was used for? The heaven's heart and earth fire can block all auras of the Great Path. It can hide one's aura. It can also block all auras, Mu Yud explained. I want to use the heaven's heart and earth fire because I don't want the 18 families to know when I unlock the seal, Jiang Chen said. Now that the heaven's heart and earth fire is gone, the seal can still be unlocked. However, the 18 families will know when the seal is unlocked. Then, how will we get away? Jiang Chen asked. Nian Changa's expression froze. He knew the seriousness of this matter. However, the heaven's heart and earth fire was too rare. Even the sky connecting Sacred Hall didn't have it. Now that he needed it urgently, where could he find it? You use it here first. I'll go out and look for it, Nian Changa said. As soon as he finished speaking, he disappeared. Jiang Chen glanced at Mu Yud and pointed into the distance. What are you standing there for? Hurry up and dig a tunnel. What for? Mu Yud was confused. Leave a way out for yourself, Jiang Chen said angrily. If the 18 families find out, we'll be dead if we don't run. You're right. Mu Yud was enlightened. He rolled up his sleeves and started digging. Jiang Chen continued to unlock the seal. The materials on the ground decreased one by one. At the same time, the seal was slowly disintegrating. At the same time, above Nanming, a group of powerhouses from the 18 families was guarding this place. Have you noticed that the seal's power seems to have weakened a lot? A powerhouse at Heaven's Decay Stage 5 frowned. He wondered if he had sensed wrongly. Chapter 568. Adeva's Blight Powerhouse's divine senses were very sharp. They could detect even the slightest movement in the world. However, there were so many Deva powerhouses here. They didn't think that Nian Changa could do anything here. Therefore, the Deva's Blight powerhouses mistakenly thought that they were overthinking. Just like that, a group of Deva powerhouses stood guard above the southern underworld while Jiang Chun was breaking the seal below the southern underworld. All of this seemed very peaceful. However, a day later, Jiang Chun's eyes suddenly flashed. He urged Mu Yud, who was beside him, "Are you done digging? What's wrong?" Mu Yud was shocked. Looking at Jiang Chun's expression, he knew that something had happened. "They've sensed it," Jiang Chun said in a low voice. His hands were forming seals faster and faster. He was only one step away from breaking the seal. However, this final step would take at least the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. Above the southern underworld, the group of Deva powerhouses finally sensed that something was wrong. That was because the seal's power had weakened too much. Even a deity realm cultivator would be able to sense it. Someone is breaking the seal in secret. Find them. At this moment, the group of Deva powerhouses was shocked and furious. Their divine senses spread out in all directions, deep into the void. However, after half an hour, they searched the surrounding 1,000 miles, but still couldn't find Jiang Chun and the others. Of course, they didn't know that it was Jiang Chun who was playing tricks. How can there be no one? Could it be that powerhouse in the southern underworld is breaking the seal himself? However, that powerhouse in the southern underworld was almost at the end of his lifespan, and his essence, chi, and spirit were extremely weak. How could he break the seal in such a state? We have to find him. He only has a little more than a day left. If he perseveres, he'll definitely die. Many Deva powerhouses took action. They covered this part of the world with their divine senses and began to search again. After more than 10 breaths, someone's expression turned serious. He looked below the southern underworld and said, "Could he be down there? He's down there." As his voice faded, a Deva fifth blight powerhouse roared furiously, stabbing a palm into the void, pressing straight for the place where Jiang Chun was at. At the same time, Jiang Chun's expression changed greatly. He formed the last seal with both hands and struck it into the seal. In an instant, multicolored light burst forth and a rotten smell filled the air. The southern underworld shattered at this moment. "Is that him?" Jiang Chun narrowed his eyes and looked at the ruins of the southern underworld. There was an emaciated old man lying there quietly like a dead man. At this moment, Jiang Chun did not dare to hesitate. He grabbed the old man's shoulder and entered the tunnel that Mu Yu had dug. "Don't even think about leaving. How dare you? Only death awaits you if you go against my 18 clans." In the sky, a group of celestial realm powerhouses were enraged. They didn't expect that someone would be able to rescue that big shot from southern underworld right under their noses. If that big shot didn't die and recovered to his peak in the future, it would undoubtedly be a destructive threat to the 18 families. "Chase! Kill them all!" After a few angry roars, a group of celestial realm powerhouses rushed underground. However, when they arrived, they were instantly dumbfounded. At a glance, there were thousands of tunnels dug under the southern underworld. Moreover, in each tunnel, there were formations and barriers that concealed one's aura. "What the F***CK? Is this a maze?" A celestial realm powerhouse frowned. There were so many tunnels. Who knew where Jiang Chun had gone? Seal off the area and search for him. Another celestial realm fifth decay powerhouse roared. Then, everyone formed seals and sealed off the area within a few breaths' time. At the same time, 3,000 miles away from the southern underworld, Jiang Chun and Mu Yu's faces turned pale. They could feel that the area within 10,000 miles had been sealed off. They couldn't get out at all. Although the tunnels were complicated and there were formations and barriers that concealed one's aura, they would be found sooner or later if they were trapped in this area. By then, they would all die. "Why isn't Yin Changa here yet?" Mu Yu panicked. Only Yin Changa could save them now. "Hide first. Hide as long as you can," Jiang Chun said in a low voice. Then, he set up formations and barriers to conceal their auras. However, half a day later, Jiang Chun could feel an extremely terrifying aura rushing toward them. It was a celestial realm fifth decay powerhouse. Even if I use the power of my third life, I can't defeat a celestial realm fifth decay cultivator. Jiang Chun sighed inwardly. Was he going to die here today? Mu Yuda's face turned pale. He muttered, if it weren't for Nian Chang'e, we wouldn't be in such a desperate situation. If you were afraid, why did you help him? Jiang Chun glared at him. Now that things have come to this, we can only rely on ourselves. Rely on ourselves? Come on, the two of us together with your ever-changing heavenly lamp are no match for that celestial realm fifth decay powerhouse. Mu Yuda sighed. However, he was calculating with his fingers. He was calculating his own fate and Jiang Chen's fate. He didn't want to die. He wanted to find a way to survive in this desperate situation. F***CK. After a while, Mu Yuda cursed. In his panic, he couldn't calculate it all. It's you. At this moment, the celestial realm fifth decay powerhouse arrived. The formations and barriers set up by Jiang Chun couldn't stop his divine sense and perception at all. He saw Jiang Chun and the other two immediately. With a cry of surprise, his eyes turned cold. Don't think that you can do whatever you want with the protection of the demon god. The man shouted angrily. You came to me today. If I kill you, the demon god and Jiu Yuan can't blame me. Buzz! As soon as he finished speaking, he struck out with his palm. The palm print was like a sharp sword. It broke through the void and charged toward Jiang Chun and the other two. Let's go! However, before the palm print hit Jiang Chun, Nian Chang'e appeared next to Jiang Chun and the other two with the Six Realms Bulletin. Then, at this critical juncture, the Six Realms Command emitted many boundless mysterious lights, and a spatial power erupted. It swept up Jiang Chun and the others, and they escaped into the void. Damn it! The Celestial Realm Fifth Decay powerhouse was furious. However, he also knew that Jiang Chun and the other two had left this place under the Six Realms Bulletin. They might have even left the bloody path. After several breaths had passed, when the mysterious light disappeared, Jiang Chun was taken aback. He looked at the surrounding scenery, and he found it somewhat familiar. Don't look around. You've been to the Skirich Temple before. Nian Chang'e wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and said, Fortunately, I arrived in time. Otherwise, all three of you would have died. How dare you say that? Mu Yuda was furious. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't have been in such a desperate situation. Chapter 569. Nian Chang'e smiled and waved. I'll make it up to you later. With that, Nian Chang'e took the giant from Jiang Chun and left in a hurry. Obviously, she was going to treat him. Jiang Chun and Mu Yuda were stunned. They looked around, out of the blood path. Then should we go in? Since we're out, we don't have to go in, right? Mu Yuda muttered. It's too dangerous. The 18 families aren't easy to deal with. The local sects of the flowing celestial world are all bad. I don't want to go in either. Jiang Chun smiled bitterly. But there are still many people in there. Naylan Mayer, Hualini, Wakako, and the others were still in the blood path. Should I just leave them alone? Jiang Chun couldn't do that. Let's get the pass first. Without it, we can't go in, Jiang Chun said softly. As soon as he said that, Taoist Heavenspan appeared in a flash and stood in front of Jiang Chun and Mu Yuda. Senior, Jiang Chun hurriedly bowed. Jiang Chun was in awe of this mysterious old man. Even though he was a divine king, Jiang Chun didn't dare to be too presumptuous in front of him. However, Mu Yuda was different. He didn't know that this old man was Taoist Heavenspan. He rubbed his chin and stared at Taoist Heavenspan's golden robe. His eyes lit up. Old Taoist, are you selling this robes? Bang! As soon as the words left his mouth, Taoist Heavenspan unleashed a palm strike that slammed Mu Yuda down onto the ground. How did you end up like this? He murmured. You used to be quite decent. Old Taoist, do you know who I am? I am the only descendant of the heaven-stealing sect. Mu Yuda was furious. He had only spoken a few words and was already suppressed. Where was he supposed to put his old face? Jiang Chun's mouth twitched. He kicked Mu Yuda and whispered, This is Nian Chang'e's master, Taoist Heavenspan. Mu Yuda was dumbfounded. After being stunned for a moment, He lay on the ground and said with an embarrassed smile, "Senior, your palm strike just now was really powerful. This junior admires you. You are really shameless." Jiang Chun squinted at him. Mu Yud, this bastard grandson, was really shameless. "Take it." Daoist Heavenspan waved his sleeve, causing more than 50 medallions to land in Jiang Chen's hand. "This is?" Jiang Chen asked. "Past medallions," Daoist Heavenspan said. "If that's not enough, I'll get more for you. If it's enough, let's go back to the blood path." The entry tokens are items from the blood path. "Senior, where did you get so many of them?" Muyuda asked curiously. "Cut the crap. Let's go back." Daoist Heavenspan glared at Muyuda and muttered, "You've really changed. You used to be calm and quiet, ruthless and righteous. How did you turn into a grave robber?" Daoist Heavenspan's words were soft, but they didn't escape Jiang Chun and Mu Yuda's ears. Mu Yud's eyes narrowed as he stared at Daoist Heavenspan. Sounding a bit nervous, he said, "Senior, do you know who I am? You don't even know yourself." "How would I know?" Daoist Heavenspan said angrily. Jiang Chun was confused. He threw Mu Yud an odd look. He thought to himself, "Doesn't this guy know who I am? This bastard always said that he was the only successor of the Thieving Heaven sect. Why is he so confused now? For as long as I can remember, I don't know who I am. I only know that I'm from the Thieving Heaven sect." Mu Yud sighed. "When I opened my eyes, I was in an ancient tomb." "What?" Jiang Chun exclaimed. "When you opened your eyes, you were in an ancient tomb? Did you not come out of your mother's womb?" "Ever since then, I've had a habit of robbing tombs." Mu Yud frowned. "It's a strange idea. It's as if there's some secret hidden in an ancient tomb, and something is calling out to me. But I've robbed so many tombs, and I still haven't found the one I'm looking for." "Beneath the 9 serenities on the first mountain," Daoist Heavenspan said. "The tomb you're looking for is there. But what kind of place was beneath the 9 serenities? Rumor had it that it was hell. People only knew about hell, but they didn't know if it really existed. And even if it did, how was one supposed to get there? Besides, what was the first mountain?" Jiang Chun only knew about the 3rd mountain, which was the forbidden area the glittering martial tower had entered. "How do I get to the 9 serenities?" Muyuda asked anxiously. "You can go there after you die," Daoist Heavenspan said angrily. "That's hell. Only the dead can go there." "What? Then how am I supposed to go there?" Muyuda was flabbergasted. Was he supposed to kill himself and turn into an undead spirit? But wouldn't turning into an undead spirit be the same as dying? And if he died, what was the point of robbing tombs? "Isn't it good to be alive?" Daoist Heavenspan muttered. "Isn't it good to be alive? But if I can't find that tomb, I won't be able to rest in peace." Mu Yud sighed. "There must be something in that tomb that has something to do with me." Daoist Heavenspan didn't say anything. He just shook his head. After a long time, he sighed. "Don't bother looking for it. Even if you find it, what can you do? It's a fact that can't be changed." With that, Daoist Heavenspan waved his finger, causing a spatial barrier to open up and kick Mu Yud in. "I'll send him on his way," Daoist Heavenspan said, looking at Jiang Chun with a gleam in his eyes. Jiang Chun's hair stood on end. Bracing himself, he asked, "Senior, is there something you want to talk to me about? If one day everyone close to you dies, and you're the only one left in the world, what would you do?" Jiang Chun's jaw dropped. He had never even considered such a possibility, and had never even considered it possible. If everyone close to him died, and he was the only one left, was that even possible? After a moment of thought, Jiang Chun said, "Something like that won't happen. If I'm strong enough, I can protect everyone. All calamities will turn into nothingness. They will not harm us, and they will not take our lives." Daoist Heavenspan sighed, looking at Jiang Chun with a flicker of disappointment in his eyes. "You're just as naive as before. I've only had 2 apprentices in my life," Daoist Heavenspan said. "One is Nian Chang'e. Presumably, you already know who he is. He's Chang'an." "What about the other one?" Jiang Chun asked, curious as to what Daoist Heavenspan was going to say. There was no way he would bring that up for no reason, right? I had another apprentice, but because he was too stupid, I expelled him from the sect. Later he died, then came back to life. 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 Chapter 570. Jiang Chun was dumbfounded. He didn't understand what Taoist Tongtian meant by this. Upon witnessing Jiang Chen's current state, Taoist Tongtian let out a sigh. Waving his hand, he said, "Let's go." "Senior, who are you? How long have you been alive?" Jiang Chen asked. "How long have you been alive?" Taoist Heavenspan murmured, his eyes flashing with memories. After a long time, he shook his head and said, "I can't remember. It's been too long. The beginning of heaven, the beginning of earth, and the coexistence of the Tao. Perhaps I was already here then." Taoist Heavenspan said. Jiang Chun was shocked. Coexisting with the Tao? Could it be that Taoist Heavenspan was already here at the beginning of heaven and earth? He was born together with the heavens and the earth. What kind of existence was that? "Don't think too much," Taoist Heavenspan said. "It's time to go back. Since you've entered the blood path, you should finish it. Besides, there are still many things for you to do." "What things?" Jiang Chen asked. "The 18 families can't be allowed to come out," Taoist Heavenspan said. "Once they do, the godless continent will be in chaos." "Can I stop them?" Jiang Chun pursed his lips. It was good enough that he was still alive. How could he stop the 18 families from coming out? If not for the demon god and 9 abyss in the fallen land, he would have been dead. Although Broken Mountain was in the fallen land, the 18 families were not to be trifled with. It was only a matter of time before they brought it out. When that time came, how could Jiang Chen stop them? "Do your best. The rest is up to fate," Taoist Heavenspan said. After that, Jiang Chun was sent back to the blood path. Once he was back, Jiang Chen looked around for traces of Hua Liani and the others. 10 days later, Jiang Chen only found Wakako. He gave the rest of the passes to Wakako and told him to pass them to Hua Liani and the others. After that, Jiang Chun went on alone. At the same time, at the end of the blood path in the headquarters of the 18 families. "What? That old thing from Nanming has been rescued. That's too much. Don't think that just because he has 9 abyss and Godfiend behind him, we won't dare to do anything to him. Within my 18 families, there are demigods." The faces of several patriarchs turned ugly, but no one said anything about targeting Jiang Chun. This was because 9 abyss and the demon god had already said that the 18 families were not to bully the weak. Now, they could only rely on the geniuses of the 18 clans to deal with Jiang Chun and the others. But today, Jiang Chun was no longer the same person who had just entered the bloody path. It was almost impossible for Jiang Chun to find an opponent in his generation. In the same generation, is there anyone at the celestial level? An old ancestor from a family asked. He had been in seclusion for many years, never interfering with the clan's affairs. But now, he felt that it was time to do something about it. A few, then send them out. We don't bully the weak, but it shouldn't be a problem for us to fight against those of the same generation. In the end, the 18 families send out dozens of young, celestial-level elites to search for Jiang Chen's whereabouts. At that moment, Jiang Chen had already arrived at the border of the flowing heaven boundary. He had a pass and could directly enter the last part of the bloody path. But here, Jiang Chen was not in a hurry to go over. He found a place and began to cultivate in seclusion. This was because Jiang Chen knew very well that the last part of the bloody path was where the 18 families' headquarters were. If he was not powerful enough, the consequences would be dire when he reached their territory. I still have to continue cultivating the incomplete heavenly manual and little 6 fingers. After cultivating in seclusion, Jiang Chen pondered. He had mastered too many things, and it was too complicated. It was time for him to give up on some of them. As the saying went, it was useless to master all of them. Until half a day later, Jiang Chen finally decided to give up on the rest and only cultivate the incomplete heavenly manual and little 6 fingers. As for those divine skills, they could only be cultivated after he became a divine god. But other than that, Jiang Chen also planned to train his physical body and walk the path of breaking all skills with brute force. Jiang Chen's physical body was already extremely powerful. Now that he had merged with the undying bird Dao soul, his body was flowing with the inextinguishable fire. In this way, Jiang Chen would sometimes be able to fight against his enemies with only his physical strength. He could even use his physical strength to destroy his enemies. After making up his mind, Jiang Chen calmed down and began to cultivate. Time passed by slowly. 1 month later, Jiang Chen opened his eyes, and there was a ray of light shining in the depths of his pupils. His left eye was shining with the moonlight, and his right eye was shining with the light of the glorious sun buzz. In the end, the moonlight turned gloomy and turned into a strand of extreme yin energy. The brilliant yang energy suddenly exploded and turned into a strand of extreme yang energy. Yin-yang eyes, sun eyes, moon eyes had finally reached the Mahayana stage, and his pupils contained the power of yin and yang. At the same time, Jiang Chen's cultivation had reached the middle level of the divine realm, and he was only 1 step away from the upper level of the divine realm. "It's about time," Jiang Chen whispered and walked out of the seclusion area, ready to step into the latter part of the bloody path. But at that moment, a young man came from afar. He was shrouded in a black fog and emitted a gloomy aura. The dark holy sun. Jiang Chen narrowed his eyes. He didn't expect to meet him here. The dark holy sun was also stunned for a moment. He didn't expect to meet Jiang Chen here. Just like that, the two of them looked at each other from 1,000 miles away. The dark holy sun didn't continue to move forward. He seemed to be afraid of Jiang Chen, but there was no fear in his eyes. Jiang Chen was naturally not afraid. After all, the dark holy sun was defeated by him. What was there to be afraid of? Previously, you sought refuge with 18 families but were hunted down by the geniuses of those 18 families. Jiang Chen said mockingly, "How you asked for it? In life, you should always make a few choices." The dark holy sun looked very relaxed and said calmly, "The choices you make are right and wrong. What about now? The choice you made doesn't seem to be right." Jiang Chen raised his eyebrows slightly and said coldly, "Since you dare to appear in front of me, your choice is wrong." "What a joke." The dark holy sun chuckled and said, "You can't kill me." Then, without waiting for Jiang Chen to speak, the dark holy sun shook his head and said, "It's just that I don't want to fight with you." Jiang Chen was a little stunned. Where did a defeated opponent get the confidence to say such words? Could it be that the dark holy sun was hiding his strength? But so what? Jiang Chen's cultivation had reached the middle level of the divine realm. Coupled with his terrifying physical body, it was enough to suppress most people in the same generation. Although the dark holy sun was strong, in Jiang Chen's eyes, he was just SOSO. It was no exaggeration for Jiang Chen to say that in his eyes, the dark holy sun was just an ant. The final journey of the bloody path is in front. Why don't we fight here? Jiang Chen raised his eyebrows. If you die, I'll leave your corpse intact and find a good place to bury you. I'll let you die with dignity. Chapter 571. Everyone knew what the Dark Saint had done in the Bloody Path. He plotted against Zhang Haoren, Lu Songyang, and Chen Lu Dao. After that, he joined the 18 families. Now, there were many people who wanted the Dark Saint's life. And now, Jiang Chen happened to meet the Dark Saint, so he naturally wouldn't let him leave. However, the Dark Saint didn't seem to have any intention of retreating. He stood in place, his posture tall and straight, like a vigorous ancient tree. His eyes were filled with light, as if there was an abyss appearing in the depths of his eyes. "There are too many people who want my life," the Dark Saint said softly, a cold light flashing in his eyes. "But there are even more people who want your life." "I know, so what?" Jiang Chen raised his eyebrows. Ever since his identity was exposed, those gods who were hostile to him in the 9 heavens divine realm had issued a divine decree, asking their forces on the godless continent to kill Jiang Chen. Moreover, Jiang Chen and the martial pavilion were mortal enemies, and the Marshall Pavilion was the master of the godless continent on the surface. In this way, those who wanted Jiang Chen's life were probably all over the godless continent. But so what? Jiang Chen was now on the bloody path, and the powerhouses of the outside world couldn't enter. And in the bloody path, the powerhouses of the 18 families were hindered by the 9 abyss, so it was impossible for them to make a move against outsiders. In this way, Jiang Chen's opponents were only outsiders like him. Since that was the case, what did Jiang Chen have to fear? You should know that the trial altar has been destroyed. The Dark Saint changed the topic and said mockingly, "Now, those who can pass those checkpoints and still come here alive are not good characters." And then, Jiang Chen narrowed his eyes and realized that things didn't seem to be so simple. "I helped a lot of people pass the checkpoint and come here." The Dark Saint said, "Now it's about time. Greetings, Dark Saint. Greetings, Dark Saint." Suddenly, 3 or 4 youths flew over from afar. Their auras were extremely terrifying, and their cultivations were all at the upper level of the deity realm. One of them had even stepped into the celestial realm. "Do you see that?" The Dark Saint said mockingly. "My men are here. Your death date is also here. It's just the celestial being tier." Jiang Chen curled his lips, looking indifferent. So what if he was in the heaven tier? At most, he would only be at Deva's first blight. Deva first blight. Jiang Chen did not place it in his eyes at all. However, after a dozen breaths, more and more people appeared, and they all submitted to the Dark Saint. Among them, there were dozens of first blight geniuses and 3 second blight geniuses. At the same time, the Dark Saint laughed maniacally. He stared at Jiang Chen and said, "I know you're very strong. I'm afraid that a first blight or second blight won't catch your attention." When Jiang Chen heard this, he didn't say anything. He just stood there quietly. The power in his body was roaring. His entire being was like a volcano. Blood energy soared into the sky, turning into a blood cloud above his head, stretching for more than 1,000 miles. "You don't fancy first blight and second blight? Then what about me, a third blight?" The Dark Saint's expression suddenly turned serious, and a terrifying aura erupted from his body. Like an azure dragon waking up, just the aura emitted from his body shook until the void collapsed. At this moment, Jiang Chen's heart tightened. Staring at the Dark Saint, he secretly thought that this person was really shrewd enough. He clearly had Deva third blight cultivation, but he did not make a move previously, insisting on waiting until his subordinates arrived before revealing it. It seemed like this Dark Saint was really like what the legend said, never fighting a battle that he had no chance of winning. "Deva third blight, it's not like I don't have the strength to fight," Jiang Chen said solemnly. Using the power of his third life, coupled with the myriad heaven illumination lamp and Tao technique little 6 fingers, he could fight with the Dark Saint. It was just that the Dark Saint had too many people. No matter how strong Jiang Chen was, he could not fight 4 hands with 2 fists. Moreover, those who could walk here alive, which one was weak? 5th Manor Palace's Holy Son pays respect to Divine King Tianshun. Hung Clan's Young Lord pays respect to Divine King Tianshun. Great Sky River's Holy Son pays respect to Divine King Tianshun. Suddenly, dozens of figures rushed over from afar. Before the people arrived, their voices already reached. They were here for Jiang Chen. Except, they did not come to deal with Jiang Chen, but to pay respects. "Haha, looks like there are still a few deities in the heavens who haven't forgotten me." Jiang Chen laughed. He naturally knew about 5th Manor Palace, Hung Zi, and Great Sky River, these few sects and factions. These few sects and factions were all established by him back then. It was just that he became a shopkeeper who did not do anything. As for the other few sects and factions, Jiang Chen did not know, but Jiang Chen knew their patriarchs. Their patriarchs were still in the 9 heavens divine realm. Back then, they were even under Jiang Chen's command. In the 9 heavens divine realm, those hostile deities issued a divine decree, letting their descendants, as well as the sects that they had once established, come and kill Jiang Chen. And those deities who were on good terms with Jiang Chen naturally would not ignore Jiang Chen. Just like now, Jiang Chen's people had arrived. We came late to protect you. We hope that Divine King Tian Chun will not be angry. We are guilty. After more than 10 breaths, more than 30 geniuses knelt in front of Jiang Chun, their foreheads covered in cold sweat, their bodies trembling. They were instructed by the elders in their sects to protect Jiang Chun well. Otherwise, their lives would be taken away. Now, if they were a step late, they would probably all be buried with Jiang Chun. In fact, as long as Jiang Chun said a word, regardless of whether they were wrong or not, they would all have to die. All get up. Jiang Chun waved his hand and said softly, "Is there a Deva third blight?" "No, I'm not." At this moment, the group of people in front of Jiang Chun were very embarrassed. Although they were all very strong, the majority of their cultivation was at the upper stage of deity realm. Although there were also a few Deva realms, they were all between first blight and second blight. That Deva fourth blight will do? Right at this moment, it was only to see a little child muttered with a red face, not daring to look straight at Jiang Chun. When Jiang Chun heard that, he could not help being stunned for a moment. Looking at this little child, he asked, "You, Deva fourth blight? Just broke through not long ago." A hint of panic flashed across this little child's eyes, and he hurriedly explained, "If not for the breakthrough taking a very long time, I would definitely have come to find you, Divine King Tian Chun, long ago. I also wouldn't have let you fall into this kind of dangerous situation. You're thinking too much. I have no intention of blaming you," Jiang Chun said with a bitter smile, secretly thinking what kind of world was this? Such a small child actually broke through to Deva fourth blight? Was this appropriate? "Little child, do you see that person emitting black fog all over?" Jiang Chun pointed at Holy Son of Darkness and said to the little child, "Can you beat him?" "Should be able to." This little child seemed very shy. After nodding his head, he said, "I'll go and try. I'll try your ass." When the extremely shrewd Holy Son of Darkness heard that, he really could not hold back. After cursing loudly, he turned around and ran. Chapter 572. Every time the Dark Holy Son appeared, he would give people a very calm and serious feeling. But now, he could no longer remain calm. Such a young child's cultivation had actually reached the fourth decay of the celestial being. Was there a mistake? Was cultivation so easy in this day and age? Of course, if it were an ordinary fourth decay of the celestial being, the Dark Holy Son would definitely not retreat. After all, he was a peerless genius and the Holy Son of the Dark Temple. Even if he was a small realm lower than others, he was not afraid. But the key was that the child in front of him was so young, and his cultivation had reached the fourth decay of the celestial being. His combat strength was definitely not weak. This kind of person could not only be called a peerless genius, but also be crowned with the title of Youth Supreme. The Dark Holy Son thought that he was very strong, but he did not dare to call himself a Youth Supreme. But this child in front of him had enough strength to call himself a Supreme. "Holy Son, Holy Son, we have the advantage in numbers. Why do you have to retreat?" At this moment, the group of people who followed the Dark Holy Son were dumbfounded. They never thought that the dignified Dark Holy Son would run away just like that. "Boss has already run away. What are we still staying for?" To be honest, I wanted to leave long ago. If he hadn't helped us pass the 5 stages, who would want to follow him? After a dozen breaths, the people here dispersed one after another. Jiang Chun did not chase after them. He was too lazy to bother. "What's your name?" Jiang Chun looked at the child. To be honest, he was also shocked. He could see through the child's age at a glance. He was only 8 or 9 years old. 8 or 9 years old, and his cultivation had reached the fourth decay of the celestial being. "This is a monster? My surname is Yi. My name is Yi Tsangyu," the child said shyly. His little face was red and looked very cute. However, no one here would think so. Fourth decay of the celestial being? Surname Ji. Could it be a family that can stand shoulder to shoulder with the Zhongzhou dynasty, the Emperor Clan Yi family? At this moment, exclamations sounded one after another. When Jiang Chun heard the words Emperor Clan Yi family, his expression changed greatly. It was all because the Emperor Clan Yi family was a giant-level family on the godless continent. This clan had always been low-key, but no one dared to provoke the Yi clan. Even the martial pavilion did not dare to provoke the Yi clan. This family had been passed down for several generations. They had a very deep foundation and had produced many deities. Furthermore, in a certain ancient era, there was one person in the clan who reigned supreme for a time. He suppressed the entire universe and was revered as the number one person below the gods. Emperor Yi. Emperor Yi wasn't a demigod. He was just a cultivator who'd undergone celestial blight. However, his combat power was enough to make even demigods tremble in fear. Jiang Chen also knew of Emperor Yi. Back when he ascended to the Nine Firmament's divine world, he had just stepped into the divine realm and was fortunate enough to meet Emperor Yi. Back then, Emperor Yi was the divine king of the Ninth Firmament. But before long, Emperor Yi suddenly disappeared. Some people said that they saw Emperor Yi being wrapped in a mysterious light and rushing into the Ninth Heaven divine world. Others claimed that Emperor Yi had made a mistake in his cultivation and had died. However, there was also a legend that Emperor Yi had chosen to reincarnate in order to break through some sort of shackle. I think I've hit the jackpot. All of a sudden, an odd expression appeared on Jiang Chen's face. As he looked at the child, he recalled Emperor Ye's full name. Wasn't that Yi Sangyu? Sangyu, how many years have you been cultivating? Jiang Chen asked with a smile. 3 years, Yi Sangyu said truthfully. I heard from the elders in the clan that I was at the upper level of the divine realm when I was born. Is there any justice in this? How many years have we been cultivating? How many heavenly tribulations have we undergone? How many life and death situations have we gone through to reach our current cultivation? But this kid, Jiang Chun, was also dumbfounded. He was at the upper level of the divine realm when he was born. What the hell? He wasn't Yi Sangyu's reincarnation. Jiang Chen wouldn't believe it even if he was beaten to death. It seems that Emperor Yi made ample preparations for his reincarnation. He was at the upper level of the divine realm when he was born. Jiang Chen sighed. Back when Jiang Chun hadn't become the divine king, there were rumors that Emperor Yi had reincarnated. Now that Jiang Chun had reincarnated, Emperor Yi was only 8 or 9 years old when he reincarnated. It was obvious that Emperor Yi had made ample preparations for his reincarnation in order to be absolutely safe. This caused his reincarnation to be delayed by many years. My name is Jiang Chun. Did the people in the clan tell you? Jiang Chen asked. They did. They even specifically told me to protect you well. Yi Sangyu nodded. A trace of fear flashed through his eyes. They also said that if I couldn't protect you well, I wouldn't have any immortal deer milk to drink when I returned. Jiang Chen blinked. He thought to himself that this reincarnation of Emperor Yi was really cute. In the future, you can call me Big Brother or Big Brother Chen. Jiang Chen smiled. Of course, you also know that I was once the divine king. If you're willing to take me as your master, you can also call me master. As soon as he said this, everyone's eyes lit up. Although Jiang Chen's cultivation was only at the deity realm, what he had learned and grasped was enough to establish a top sect, who didn't want to take Jiang Chen as their master and grasp the things Jiang Chen had grasped. However, Jiang Chen hadn't said anything, so they didn't dare to say anything. One of the Yi clan's deities in the Ninth Heaven divine realm issued a decree. He said that if I meet someone who wants to take me as a disciple, I should be on my guard and absolutely not take him as my master. Yi Sangyu frowned and looked at Jiang Chun with a strange expression. He muttered, "Was he talking about you? Me? Impossible." Jiang Chun immediately denied it, but his heart was filled with fear, because he knew who the Yi clan deity was. He was one of the top 10 diviners in the Ninth Heaven divine realm. It seemed that guy had already divined this matter. Now that Yi Sangyu is in my hands, I'll train him well. Even if he doesn't call me master, he can still become my follower, or fighter. Jiang Chen thought, if I get along well with him, when Emperor Yi recovers his memories, he might even be able to protect me. Sangyu, from now on, Just call me Brother Chen. Don't treat me like an outsider. I know a few of the Yi clan's deities and have a good relationship with them. Jiang Chen smiled and patted Yi Cangyu's cute head with a doting expression. The deity of my clan also said that I should be on my guard against anyone who wants me to call him brother. Yi Cangyu muttered. He stared at Jiang Chen again and muttered, was he talking about you? What the hell? That Yi clan deity is really ruthless? He can even predict this? Jiang Chen was speechless. What should he call him now? After thinking about it carefully, Jiang Chen's expression became serious. He stared at Yi Cangyu and said, how about we become sworn brothers? Oh! Yi Cangyu's expression became even more strange. He said, the deity of my Yi clan said that I should be on my guard against anyone who wants to become sworn brothers with me. Then Yi Cangyu looked towards Jiang Chen and asked in a low voice, are you the one he's talking about? Chapter 573. Jiang Chen's face was red and his mouth was twitching. What's up with the Yi clan's god? Why does he want to go against me? Maybe it's just a coincidence, Jiang Chen said awkwardly. Why are they guarding against me? If they were guarding against me, why would the Yi clan send you to protect me? Am I right? That's true. Yi Cangyu nodded. Yi Cangyu was still young and was easily tricked by Jiang Chen. Then, Jiang Chen patted Yi Cangyu's shoulder. From now on, follow me and I guarantee you'll live a good life. I'll also find you a wife. Although you're still young, you should be prepared. What the hell? He's only 8 or 9 years old. God King Tian Chun, isn't this too early? The onlookers rolled their eyes. How could they not see through Jiang Chen's intentions? He was clearly trying to kidnap Yi Cangyu. What do you know? Feelings need to be nurtured from a young age, Jiang Chen said seriously. With that, Jiang Chen waved his hand. All right, let's go. We'll enter the latter half of the blood path. With all of us together, we'll be able to run rampant on the blood path. The latter half of the blood path is just a decoration to us. There's no danger. The group was very confident. After all, they were all very strong and could be considered peerless geniuses. In addition, there was Jiang Chen and the monstrous Yi Cangyu. With all of them together, there really wasn't anyone on the blood path who could contend against them. However, Jiang Chen frowned and didn't say anything, because he knew that the world was so big and there were more experts than these. Perhaps some people had already reached the latter half of the blood path after entering it, or even reached the end, and those people wouldn't leave the blood path so easily. According to past practice, the first people to reach the end of the blood path would lie in ambush there and kill these geniuses. The holy son of Shangqian Kuan, the holy son of the 9 clouds, and a few other famous people have all disappeared recently? Jiang Chen asked. I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything about them recently, someone answered. It's the heaven and earth saint sun and the 9 clouds heaven saint sun. These two are fierce characters. Not long ago, I heard that both of them broke through to the heaven tier, someone said. However, this was not a threat to Jiang Chen, because these two people had no enmity with Jiang Chen. In addition, the ancestors of Shangqian and 9 Cloud sect were comrades in arms of Nianchanga. Just based on this relationship alone, it was impossible for them to fight. However, there were so many prodigies on the godless continent who had entered the bloody path. Who could be sure that there were no other monstrous figures? I wonder if Mu Xingyun is dead. Jiang Chen's eyes narrowed as he suddenly thought of his nemesis. This fellow was definitely the most difficult opponent to deal with after Jiang Chen's rebirth. The two had fought more than once or twice, but Mu Xingyun was able to escape each time. There were even a few times when Jiang Chen almost died at the hands of Mu Xingyun. To Jiang Chen, Mu Xingyun was always a hidden danger if he did not die. Right. I heard that another overlord body appeared. On the way forward, everyone was gossiping. One of the youths looked at Jiang Chen with a strange expression and said, Is one of your brothers called Wakako? Jiang Chen nodded and said, What's wrong? The two overlord bodies met together. I heard that Wakako was defeated. The youth said. As soon as these words came out, Jiang Chun was immediately dumbfounded. Wakako was an overlord and also an overlord body. His strength was not weaker than the average person. In Jiang Chen's heart, even if Wakako was not invincible among his peers, he was close. But now he actually heard such a piece of news. The most important thing was that the person who defeated Wakako was also an overlord body like Wakako. That overlord body boasted that he was bestowed by the heavens and called himself the overlord body of the heavens. After defeating Wakako, he said that he wanted to fight with you. The youth said, "He is very strong." It is said that when he broke through to the celestial realm, he was already invincible among his peers. Oh, is that so? Jiang Chen raised his eyebrows. Celestial realm? First decay or second decay? As long as he did not exceed the celestial realm's decay, no matter if he was an overlord body or a sacred body, as long as he dared to come, he would be suppressed. When it came to this special physique, Jiang Chun could not help but have a headache. It was because Jiang Chun also had a sacred body. It was just that there was no record of what his physique was called in history. Even now, Jiang Chun only knew that his sacred body had amazing recovery power. Other than that, it seemed to have no other use. "Look, my physique. What is it?" Jiang Chun muttered. He forced out a drop of essence blood and dropped it in front of everyone. A group of people immediately surrounded him. After careful observation, they all shook their heads, indicating that they did not know. Jiang Chun was also speechless. He knew that his sacred body was very strong, but Jiang Chun could not tell how strong it was. This essence blood has a special power. It seems like it can be used as a panacea. Yi Tsangyu said. He glanced at Jiang Chun and muttered, "Let me try." After that, Yi Tsangyu swallowed Jiang Chen's essence blood while Jiang Chen's face was in a mess. Buzz! In an instant, the blood and qi in Yi Tsangyu's body surged like a red cloud rushing out from the top of his head. Panacea for healing. A drop of essence blood can regrow flesh and bones. As long as there is still a breath left, a drop of your essence blood can save him, Yi Tsangyu said very seriously. When these words came out, the group of people could not help but have strange expressions. Jiang Chun was also taken aback, and he couldn't help but think to himself that his sacred body seemed like a mobile healing panacea. "Give me a few drops of essence blood. When the time comes, if I am seriously injured, I can swallow the essence blood to heal myself." Yi Tsangyu did not think too much and directly said what was in his heart. Following Yi Tsangyu's words, the others immediately burst into an uproar. A group of people surrounded Jiang Chun, all of them shouting, "God King Tian Chun." Some of them even took out bottles and jars. "God King Tian Chun, please bestow us God blood." "My king." At this moment, Jiang Chen's face was dark. Who the hell are these people? They were begging for food, they were begging for money, but he had never seen anyone begging for blood. Fortunately, Jiang Chen's body was very strong, and his essence blood was abundant. Giving away some essence blood was not a big deal to him. Just like that, Jiang Chun was very generous and gave each of them 10 drops of essence blood. 10 drops of essence blood is equivalent to 10 panacea for healing. With this essence blood, do I still have to worry about being injured? As long as there is a breath left, I can be revived with full health. Everyone was excited and respected Jiang Chun even more. Some of them even had a fanatical look in their eyes. Gods are omnipotent. Jiang Chun enjoyed this feeling very much. He said lightly and waved his hand. "This is a gift from this king. You don't have to thank me." Chapter 574. The group continued to move forward slowly, and soon, they entered the latter part of the bloody path. The latter part of the blood path, under normal circumstances, was very dangerous. The competition was very fierce, and one could easily die. But this time, the blood path was different from before. This time, due to the 18 clans, more than half of the trial takers who entered the blood path died, and many people were blocked outside the checkpoints. As a result, there were not many people who entered the latter part of the blood path. In addition, the 9 Abyss, and the demon god had an agreement with the 18 clans. The experts of the 18 clans could not attack Jiang Chun and the other trial takers. As a result, Jiang Chun and the others were in less danger after entering the latter part of the blood path. In fact, when this group of people walked together, there was no danger at all. This was a group of peerless geniuses, each with a profound cultivation base. They even had Emperor Ye's reincarnation, Yi Tsangyu. With the help of a freak like Jiang Chun, no matter where they went, they wouldn't have to fear anything. It's so boring. 10 days later, Jiang Chun and the others advanced. Not only did they not encounter other trial takers, but they also did not meet anyone from the 18 clans. This made Jiang Chun feel very bored. Sometimes he even wondered if this trip to the blood path was going to end just like that. "Your Majesty, do you think there's anyone ahead of us?" someone asked. "There should be," Jiang Chun said. "Don't worry. There are so many of us. Which one of us is weak? Even if we meet them, we don't have to be afraid of them." It's not to the extent of being afraid, but I'm curious why I don't see anyone from the 18 clans here. Another youth frowned, very puzzled. Jiang Chun was also very puzzled about this. One had to know that the latter part of the blood path was the headquarters of the 18 clans. But after 10 days of entering the latter part of the blood path, they did not see anyone from the 18 clans. There must be something strange about this. Speaking of which, what are you going to do after you go out? As they walked, Jiang Chun thought about some questions. For example, these peerless geniuses in front of him. If the Chuanzuan sect was to be rebuilt, it would naturally be inseparable from the presence of experts. There would also be a number of geniuses and monstrous geniuses. However, Jiang Chun rarely took care of the Chuanzuan sect, so he didn't know how the sect was doing right now. Of course, Jiang Chun wasn't thinking about these problems at the moment. He was wondering if he could get these peerless geniuses to join the Chuanzuan sect. If these people were willing to join the Chuanzuan sect, as long as they were properly nurtured, they would definitely become a group of giants in the future. At that time, the Chuanzuan sect would definitely rise again and rule the godless continent again. However, these youths all had their own clans, sects, and forces. It was very difficult to get them to join Chuanzuan's sect. After I go out, I'll definitely explore the world and see the scenery of the godless continent. At the same time, I'll also meet those experts who have yet to appear. The world is vast. Those who enter the bloody path are not necessarily the strongest group of heaven's prides. Someone said, there are some who are training outside. Their strength is not weaker than us. Yeah, I heard that a major event happened in the Central Continent Imperial Dynasty some time ago. The second prince, Li Fengzi, successfully usurped the throne and became the Central Continent Imperial Dynasty's Imperial Lord now, another youth said. When Jiang Chun heard that, his expression could not help turning solemn, thinking of Li Fengzi, this person. This guy's strength was very formidable, and he was also very shrewd. He was indeed a character, and could even be called a formidable character. Except, what Jiang Chun did not expect was that Li Fengzi actually usurped the throne. This guy's guts were really fat enough. No wonder I didn't see this guy after entering the bloody path. Turns out that he went to usurp the throne, Jiang Chun muttered, but he was rather delighted in his heart. His relationship with Li Fengzi was pretty good. Now, since Li Fengzi became the Central Continent Imperial Dynasty's Imperial Lord, then Jiang Chun had an additional backer. It was just that the Central Continent Imperial Dynasty's foundation was sufficient to contend with the Martial Pavilion. The premise was under the circumstances where Lin Lang Wentian was not around. The Nayland family and the Martial Pavilion have completely broken off relations. Another youth said, Lin Lang Wentian's official wife is a member of the Nayland family. Now that they have broken off relations, the Nayland family and the Martial Pavilion can be considered to have completely broken off relations. And I heard that there's a person called Nayland Mayer who might become the next Nayland family patriarch. When he heard that, Jiang Chun's entire person became spirited. What's going on? My good luck is starting to come. Li Fengzi became the Central Continent Imperial Dynasty's Imperial Lord. And now Nayland Mayer was also going to become the Nayland family patriarch? In the future, with these two great backers, What was Jiangchen afraid of? What was there to be afraid of not being able to establish a foothold in the entire supreme sect? Eh, what's the use? The current outside world has already changed. A youth curled his lips and said, no matter how strong a family is, it's estimated that it will be destroyed in this storm. When these words came out, many people in the surroundings looked over curiously. It was because they were in the bloody path. Although they had secret techniques to know some things about the outside world, they could basically only hear some trivial matters. The truly important things were simply impossible for ordinary people to find out. Hey, in the current godless continent, there are quite a few people like this. The youth pointed at Yi Yu and said, some are saints when they're born, and some are god realm cultivators when they're born. I even heard that there's a kid from the Zhao family who was born with celestial decay 5. What? Celestial decay 5 at birth? There's such a thing? Is there a mistake? A glorious era is about to descend. Everything in the world is about to change dynasties. Linlang Wentian has already seen through all of this. That's why he entered the third mountain. He wants to break through and stabilize the martial pavilion's position on the godless continent. The youth continued to speak. In the end, he looked at Jiang Chun with reverence in his eyes and said, Your Majesty, the Qing Kong family that you're on good terms with has collectively disappeared some time ago. Do you know about this? I don't know. Jiang Chun shook his head, a trace of astonishment flashing in his eyes. It's not just the Qing Kong family. Several top sects, families, and inherited forces have all disappeared. There are rumors that they seem to have gone to Eternal City. The youth sighed. Now, the forces in the outside world are becoming more and more complicated. A huge storm may sweep across the entire godless continent. When that time comes, the godless continent will enter the most chaotic era. Jiangchen couldn't help but nod when he heard that. He also knew very well that with the disappearance of those top sects, some balance would definitely be broken. In addition, it was now a prosperous era. Geniuses came out in large numbers, and experts were as common as clouds. There were even hidden sects and families coming out to fight for the position of world overlord. In this way, it was only a matter of time before the godless continent descended into chaos. It was even very likely that the current godless continent was already in chaos, and the flames of war had already ignited. Chapter 575. No one knew how chaotic the godless continent was now. After all, the people present were only connected to the outside world through secret techniques. They only knew a part of the things, but they did not know the real big things. However, this youth revealed a lot of information, making everyone feel a little nervous. Some people were even worried that their sects would be implicated. Even when they left the bloody path, would their sects still exist? With our cultivation, when we leave the bloody path, we can establish a foothold in the outside world. Jiangchen said, if the godless continent is really in chaos, and the flames of war are everywhere, we will have to unite. A prosperous era, but also a chaotic era. Yi Yu sighed. He was 8 or 9 years old, but at this moment, he gave people a feeling of old age. Hurry up and leave here, Jiangchen said in a deep voice, also worried about Chuanzuan's sect. Chuanzuan's sect was a sect he established in his previous life, spending a lot of effort and energy. In this life, after being reborn, Jiangchen said that he would restore Chuanzuan's sect's glory no matter what. But the current Chuanzuan sect really did not have anything to show. Previously, if not for Nayland Mayer relying on the Nayland family's power to protect Chuanzuan's sect would probably have been destroyed by the Martial Pavilion. And now, the Martial Pavilion's Linlang Wentian was no longer there, and the Nayland family and the Martial Pavilion had broken off relations. This also caused Chuanzuan's sect situation to become extremely worrying. The Martial Pavilion could not make a move against Chuanzuan's sect, but the current Nayland family probably did not have the mood to care about Chuanzuan's sect. At that time, if a top sect made a move against Chuanzuan's sect, with Chuanzuan's sect's current strength, how could they resist? HM? What's that? Suddenly, someone exclaimed. In the distant sky, There was a tall mountain flying horizontally. Jiang Qin's eyes focused, his heart tightened, and his face became gloomy. That tall mountain was Broken Mountain. No wonder after entering the bloody path, I didn't see anyone from the 18 families. So they went to move the mountain. Jiang Qin's face was ugly. He did not expect the 18 families to be so powerful. They actually brought out the Broken Mountain from the land of the fallen. In that case, if no one stopped them, it would only be a matter of time before the 18 families left the Blood Road. It had to be known that the 18 families had hunted down so many trial challengers that they had probably gathered enough blood and flesh to unlock the seal. Now, it was only a matter of time before the seal was broken. If the 18 clans leave the bloody path and enter the godless continent, then the godless continent will become even more chaotic. Jiang Qin said in a deep voice, "It's even very likely that the godless continent will be ruled by the 18 clans. They are a bunch of traitors. If their ancestors hadn't betrayed the celestial flow world, the celestial flow world wouldn't have been destroyed. Millions of gods wouldn't have descended to the celestial flow world, and celestial king Tianyuan wouldn't have died here." Someone's eyes flashed with anger. Jiang Chun smiled bitterly. Wasn't Heaven Origin God Monarch his third reincarnation? This group of traitors will never change. Someone said in a solemn voice, "If we let them enter the godless continent, who knows what calamity it will bring? When the time comes, the godless continent will be destroyed, just like the flowing heaven realm. It's a small matter if it's destroyed, but if it's destroyed..." Yi Tsangyu frowned. Jiang Qin's eyes flashed when he heard this. Yi Tsangyu didn't say much, but just those few words made Jiang Qin suspicious. Yi Tsangyu, who looked 8 or 9 years old, seemed to be very mature. Jiang Qin began to wonder if Yi Tsangyu's memories had been awakened. If that was the case, then why did Yi Tsangyu hide it? "Tsangyu, what do you know?" Jiang Qin asked, his eyes flashing. Yi Tsangyu was stunned for a moment. Then his face turned red. He scratched his head and said, "I heard some things from the elders in the clan." "Oh, what is it?" Jiang Qin asked. "It's said that in a distant place, there's a very mysterious and powerful world. The people of that world have always wanted to invade and even destroy our world." Yi Tsangyu said, then pointed above his head and said, "They even want to destroy the 9 heavens divine world." "What? They even dare to destroy the 9 heavens divine world?" Someone exclaimed, "Impossible. There are gods everywhere in the 9 heavens divine world. Do they have the strength to destroy the 9 heavens divine world?" Someone asked in shock. Jiang Qin believed that the mysterious world really did have the power to destroy the 9 heavens divine world. After all, millions of gods descended to the flowing heaven world, and most of them died in battle. This was enough to prove that the people in that world were strong enough to fight against the gods. Then why don't they attack the 9 heavens divine world directly? Why do they have to attack the flowing heaven world and the godless continent? Someone asked. They can't go to the 9 heavens divine world directly. They have to go through the flowing heaven world or the godless continent to enter the 9 heavens divine world. Yi Tsangyu said. Yi Tsangyu then added, "I heard this from the elders in the clan. I don't know the details." "Is that so? Did you really hear it from the elders in the clan?" Jiang Qin asked meaningfully. Yi Tsangyu blushed again and did not continue to speak. "Let's move on," Jiang Qin said softly and did not continue to ask. After that, Jiang Qin and the others continued to move forward without encountering any danger. At the same time, at the end of the bloody road in the ancestral land of the 18 clans, Broken Mountain had been moved here. At this moment, the whole mountain was cracked, and the seal altar on the top of the mountain was flickering with bloody light. The seal runes were burning and constantly collapsing. The power of the seal was getting weaker and weaker. The people of the 18 clans were very excited. If this trend continued, they would be able to break the seal in a few days and leave the bloody road with their entire clan. At that time, how many people in the world could stop them? At that time, we will unify the godless continent and open the door of darkness. Our glory will reappear in the world. One of the old ancestors of the 18 clans was very excited. How many years has it been? Our 18 clans have been trapped in the bloody road for several generations. Now, we are finally going to come out. Inform everyone to gather back. Once the seal is broken, the entire clan will come out. Jiang Chun naturally guessed a little about what happened in the 18 clans. But he had no choice. With his strength, he could not stop all of this at all. What he needed to do now was to constantly cultivate and increase his cultivation. Only strength could fight against everything and destroy everything. Time passed slowly. 15 days had passed since Jiang Chun and the others had entered the second half of the bloody path. In these 15 days, Jiang Chen's cultivation was also increasing. Now, he was almost at the upper level of the God realm. And in these 15 days, the 18 clans did not make a sound. It was as if they had disappeared. Chapter 576. Until this day, when Jiang Chun and company arrived in front of a large river, the group of people stopped in their tracks. Looking over, on the other side of the river stood over 100 deity realm powerhouses. Among them, there was no lack of deity realm powerhouses. Among them, there were even deity fifth blight supreme powerhouses. These people wore uniform robes. They were members of the 18 family clans. Everyone, you are all the top group of heaven's prides in the godless continent. Now that our 18 family clans are about to emerge, we specially came to ask you about something. The deity fifth blight old man in the lead said with a smile. He looked very amiable, but the killing intent in his eyes was not concealed in the slightest. He was like a smiling tiger, staring at Jiang Chun and company. The aura on his body rose and fell, and a mystic light flickered in his palm. He seemed to be ready to attack at any time. If the situation turns bad later, everyone retreat, Jiang Chun said softly. Following that, his gaze landed on the old man and asked, "What is it?" Ask. Everyone, are you willing to pledge your loyalty to our 18 family clans? The old man asked with a smile. In the face of an absolute advantage, pledging loyalty to our 18 family clans is your best choice. Don't be in a hurry to refuse. The old man said, I believe you also know the heritage of our 18 family clans. If you can pledge your loyalty to us, our 18 family clans will not treat you unfairly. When the time comes, our glory will be shared with you. The moment these words came out, Jiang Chun and company could not help but scoff. Glory? Shared? What kind of glory is that? Nothing more than a group of traitors who were spurned by others and whose names would be cursed for eternity. Pledge my loyalty to you? I might as well pledge my loyalty to a dog. Someone cursed angrily. Who do you think you are? A bunch of scum, a bunch of traitors. You won't change. Your ancestors were traitors, and you are still traitors. Just a bunch of trash who were born traitors. At this moment, Jiang Chen's side was filled with angry curses. They were all peerless heaven's prides, and had their own pride. I know that all of you revere Tian, Chun God King. Today, I am not asking any of you. I am only here to ask him. The old man didn't seem to care at all. His gaze locked onto Jiang Chun. His eyes narrowed slightly as he said, You better think carefully. If your answer is wrong, all of you will lose your lives. Do I need to think? Jiang Chun raised his eyebrows and took a few steps forward. Standing on the surface of the river, he pointed at himself and said, If you have any problems, come at me. Oh, so there's no room for discussion? The old man scornfully said, Come at you? Heh, all of you will die here today. You have an agreement with the Nine Abyss that you are not to attack us. Jiang Chun said, Why? Is the agreement no longer valid? Promise? Ha ha ha. What kind of agreement is that? The old man laughed wildly. After we come out and unify the godless continent and open the door of darkness, the Nine Abyss will be nothing. Is the Nine Abyss strong? Back then, he was defeated by our master and escaped here with serious injuries. Let's not talk about the fact that he hasn't come out yet. Even if he comes out, it's too late. Jiang Qin's expression remained unchanged when he heard that. He looked up at the sky and sighed. If they were in the outside world, Jiang Qin would not hesitate to use the forbidden skill of God to obtain the power of the gods and kill all of them. However, the forbidden skill could not be used in the bloody path. The wind of the East Dragon, the fire of the South Sparrow, the metal of the West Tiger, the earth of the North Turtle, the four cardinal five elements. If one is missing, the shield will disperse. At this moment, Jiang Qin weaved Madra with his hands. The shadows of the four divine beasts showed up next to him. The power of the four elements among the five elements broke out. It was like a five-colored gale that shrouded the people behind him. Then, the last line of the five elements appeared and shattered the void. The next moment, Jiang Qin waved his hand and threw the group behind him into the void. Then he pressed his hands in front of him, and the void suddenly closed. He sent these people away with a secret skill. Now, he was the only one left on the river. Leave some hope for the godless continent. Jiang Qin sighed and looked at the people of the 18 families. He said, I'm no match for you. I don't even have the power to fight back. However, I still want to try. You sent them away, but they still can't escape the bloody path. In the end, they all have to die. The old man sneered. The mysterious light in his hand turned into a spear and aimed at Jiang Qin. Then let's fight to the death. Jiang Qin said softly. His blood rushed out, and he was like a volcano erupting. The power of his third life appeared. Jiang Qin was enveloped in a divine light. His hair and clothes fluttered. When he reached out, the weapon of his third life, the sky piercer, appeared out of thin air. Heaven origin immortal king? Reincarnation is turning, but the ending will not change. Your third life died here. I don't know which life you are in now, but the ending will not change. You are destined to die here. Be careful. Attack together. At this moment, the hundreds of powerhouses rushed over together. Their auras shook the sky, and the void collapsed. Heaven and earth changed color. Violent power drowned this place like a storm. Toward this, Jiang Qin was indifferent. The sky piercer in his hand swept out like a blazing flame. Poof! Poof! Under one attack, the deity realm powerhouses among the hundreds of people who rushed over were all annihilated. Under the power of Jiang Qin's third life, the deity realm powerhouses were like ants. Only the deity realm powerhouses could still contend. In the end, I can't use the full power of my third life. Jiang Qin sighed. If he could use the full power of his third life, these people in front of him would be annihilated in one blow. I thought you were strong. You're only SO. Kill you, and your reincarnation will end here. The remaining celestial humans growled. Sword radiances, knife radiances, doctrine methods, tactical formations, and wards were all thrown at Jiang Qin to suppress him. Jiang Qin was fearless. Since things had come to this, he could only fight. If he won, he would not enter reincarnation. If he lost, he could not even enter reincarnation, vanishing into thin air from then on. Boom! Boom! At this moment, Jiang Qin rushed out, condensing the power of his third life. Holding the sky piercer in his hand, he was like a god of war, slashing a group of deity realm powerhouses into a fierce battle. He attacked wildly, completely abandoning defense. 6 paths of reincarnation fist and little 6 fingers were fully displayed. Half a day later, Jiang Qin killed 16 deity realm powerhouses. However, his physical body was shattered and had already been reforged 3 times. At the same time, the sky piercer in his hand was shattered. He was now barehanded. The most fatal thing was that the backlash after using the power of his third life erupted. Jiang Qin's entire body was trembling at this moment. Even his divine soul had cracks. His eyes were turbid, blood dripping. His entire person was like a man of blood. However, he did not fall. Perhaps, like his third life, he would be like this until his death. His life. Only I can take it. Suddenly, a voice that Jiang Qin was very familiar with sounded. Immediately after, without waiting for everyone to react, a shadow appeared out of thin air and swept up Jiang Chun, disappearing from this place. No aura at all, his aura concealed. Even a deity fifth blight's divine sense could not detect Jiang Chen's traces. Chapter 577. The group of heavenly human stage experts were stunned for a moment. They could not detect Jiang Chen's aura, and no one could even deduce Jiang Chen's whereabouts. It was as if Jiang Chen had disappeared into thin air. It was more like he had left this world. What's going on? Who's saving? The group of people roared angrily. They could not accept this fact. Not only did the group of heavenly human stage experts fail to kill Jiang Chen, but nearly 100 godly state experts had also been killed by Jiang Chen. Several heavenly human stage experts had also fallen. The price was too great. It's the Dark Master. I found it. It's a Dark Master. Who took him away? However, although they had found out that the Dark Master had left Jiang Chen, they could not track him down. That was because the Dark Master's concealment skills were too profound. Even the heavenly human stage 5 decay experts could not sense where the Dark Master was. He will die sooner or later. Someone roared, his eyes full of killing intent. At the same time, at the bottom of the river, under a piece of mud, Jiang Chen's face was pale, and his body was full of cracks. He was like a porcelain vase that was about to shatter. The blood in his body had dried up, and his strength had dried up. Even the stars had dimmed. However, Jiang Chen didn't care about his current state because he had a sacred body, and the power of the backlash would sooner or later vanish. What he cared about the most now was the person who had saved him. Are you surprised? Mu Xingyun stood in front of Jiang Chen, raised his eyebrows, and said mockingly, "You didn't expect that I would save you at this moment, right?" "Why?" Jiang Chen asked. "There's no reason." Mu Xingyun shook his head. "Maybe I'm proud, or maybe I'm confident, or maybe I'm afraid that being invincible will be too lonely." "What do you mean?" Jiang Chen frowned. He had no idea what Mu Xingyun was thinking. "In my eyes, the only opponent in this life is you." Mu Xingyun said, "Holy princes of Shangqiankun, holy princes of the continent of the 9 clouds, in my eyes they're nothing. In my eyes, the only opponent is you." Mu Xingyun's eyes narrowed as he stared at Jiang Chen. "If you die, I'm afraid I won't have any opponents in my generation. My days will be very lonely, very lonely." When these words came out, Jiang Chen couldn't help but be stunned. He secretly thought that Mu Xingyun was really confident. Heaven and Earth Saint Sun, 9 cloud heaven Saint Sun. Which one of them was weak? Those two aside, what about Emperor Ye's reincarnation, Yi Sangyu? Mu Xingyun can go against Yi Sangyu. It had to be said that Mu Xingyun was indeed overconfident. No, in Jiang Chen's eyes, this was no longer confidence, but arrogance. "What about now?" Jiang Chen raised his eyebrows. "If you want to kill me, now is the best time. Why should I kill a dying man?" Mu Xingyun curled his lips. "If I wanted to kill you, why would I save you?" After saying that, without waiting for Jiang Chen's response, Mu Xingyun waved his hand and said, "Enough. When your injuries are healed, we'll meet again in the future. I'll fight you again." "Ah, you're really confident." Jiang Chen chuckled. "Aren't you afraid that I'll kill you when the time comes? The winner lives, the loser dies," Mu Xingyun said softly. "This has been the unshakable principle since ancient times. Why should I worry about being killed by you?" After saying that, Mu Xingyun sat cross-legged to the side and didn't speak anymore. Jiang Chen didn't speak either. He closed his eyes and healed his injuries. Of course, Jiang Chen was also wary of Mu Xingyun. After all, this guy wasn't a good person. However, until 5 days later, when Jiang Chen's injuries were healed, Mu Xingyun didn't make a move. At the moment when Jiang Chen's injuries were healed, Mu Xingyun got up and said, "It's time to go. Next time, we'll have a good fight again." "I hope so." Jiang Chen nodded and didn't say any words of thanks. After all, Jiang Chen didn't want Mu Xingyun to save him. As for Mu Xingyun, It was because of his arrogance and confidence that he had saved Jiangchun. Between the two of them, they were mortal enemies. There was no need to thank him. Half a day later, Mu Xingyan left first. Jiangchun also rushed out of the mud and hid, coming to the river. The 18 clans have completely let loose. I'm afraid the road ahead won't be clear. Jiangchun sighed. Looking at the distant horizon, he felt helpless. Now, there was only one way to leave the blood path. That was to wait. Wait until the 18 clans came out and left the blood path. Only then would Jiangchun and the other cultivators have a chance to walk out of the blood path alive. Of course, there was another way, and that was to start a war with the 18 clans. However, this method wouldn't work at all. The 18 clans had such a deep foundation and had cultivated for many generations on the blood path. If Jiangchun and the other cultivators started a war with the 18 clans, it would be like hitting a rock with an egg. Of course, they could also ask the local cultivators of the Flowing Heaven World for help. However, the local cultivators of the Flowing Heaven World could only stay in the Flowing Heaven World. This place was already beyond the boundaries of the Flowing Heaven World. It was the latter part of the blood path, and was in a different world from the Flowing Heaven World. If I can open a passage. Jiangchun's eyes shone brightly as he thought about it. Thereafter, Jiangchun turned back and walked back the way he came. More than 10 days later, when Jiangchun arrived at the intersection between the Flowing Heaven World and the latter part of the blood path, Jiangchun sat down cross-legged and released his spirit consciousness. He was checking out the situation at the intersection. If the 18 clans could move freely in the blood path, why could the people of the Flowing Heaven World only move within the Flowing Heaven World? There must be a reason behind this. If he could find a reason and break it, the cultivators of the Flowing Heaven World would be able to enter and exit any place on the blood path freely. At that time, Jiangchun might be able to command the cultivators of the Flowing Heaven World to wage war against the 18 clans with his identity as the Heaven Essence Divine King. Bloodline seal? 3 days later, Jiangchun finally found the reason. There was a seal in the boundary wall where the two realms intersected. This seal was targeted at the cultivators of the Flowing Heaven World. Anyone born in the Flowing Heaven World would be tainted by the aura of the Flowing Heaven World and would be blocked by this seal, unable to enter the latter part of the blood path. Right now, if he could break this bloodline seal, the cultivators of the Flowing Heaven World would naturally be able to enter the latter part of the blood path. That said, it was unknown who had left behind that seal. It was very complicated and obscure. Jiangchun studied it for a long time, but could only understand a little. As for how to break it, Jiangchun had no idea at all. Should I force it open? Jiangchun frowned. However, given his current strength, he could not do that at all. In fact, even a Heaven's Blight Stage 5 expert would not be able to do it. If it could be done, would the seal still remain until now? If only Mu Yud was here. Jiangchun sighed. That guy had many tricks up his sleeves and might be able to think of a solution. But now, Mu Yud was nowhere to be seen, and he was nowhere to be seen. Chapter 578. Mu Yud wasn't here, and Jiangchun wasn't sure what to do with the seal. Jiangchun wasn't sure what to do. As long as the 18 clans didn't leave the blood path, Jiangchun and the others would never be able to proceed. Now he could either wait or undo the seal here. Either way, we'll have to wait. Jiangchun sighed and sat down cross-legged to focus on undoing the seal. Meanwhile, back in Heavenspan God Temple, Nianchanga was standing in front of Taoist Heavenspan, frowning. Master, are we really not going to help them? He asked. Everything in the world has karma, Taoist Heavenspan replied. Some things are predestined. Those who deserve to die will die, and those who don't deserve to die will not die. But what if he really does die? Nianchanga asked. Him? If he dies, then everything will be over. Taoist Heavenspan sighed. If he dies, then he'll definitely be defeated. But to me, defeat is a release. How many generations has it been? How many years has it been? We've been fighting, and we've been defeated. I'm tired of it. Hearing this, Nian Chang'e also sighed. He knew how strong his master was. He was virtually invincible. Even in the Nine Heavens God world, his master would definitely have a place there. But Nian Chang'e also knew that his master was tired of that kind of life. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come to the godless continent and heaven-span God temple. If the 18 clans come out, the godless continent will be thrown into chaos, Nian Chang'e said. What do you think, master? Chaos? Taoist Heavenspan said, pursing his lips. Isn't the godless continent chaotic enough right now? With that, Taoist Heavenspan sighed and looked off into the northwest, almost as if his gaze could pierce through the void and reach a location far, far off in the distance. After a few breaths of time, he said, that's the third mountain. Glittering Jewel Wentian hasn't come out since he entered. I don't know if he's dead or alive. Will he die in there? Nian Chang'e asked. Probably not, Taoist Heavenspan said. I'm actually starting to miss him. Miss him? Nian Chang'e was stunned. Why would she miss Lin Lang when Tian, all of a sudden? Could it be that Taoist Heavenspan didn't know about the relationship between Jiang Chun and the Martial Pavilion? At least when Lin Lang Wentian was around, the godless continent wouldn't be so chaotic. Taoist Heavenspan said, even if 18 clans were to appear, as long as the glittering jewel ask heaven exists, the godless continent will remain peaceful. Is he really that strong? Nian Chang'e was stunned. It was the first time she had heard her master praise someone like that. To me, Lin Lang Wentian is like an ant, but to the creatures of the godless continent, he is at the very top. The very top. Forget it, let's not talk about this anymore. Taoist Heavenspan waved his hand dismissively. Go back to the blood path and give him the 6 Worlds Bulletin. As for how he chooses his own path, that's up to him. Yes. Nian Chang'e nodded and left in a flash. Half a day later, Nian Chang'e came to Jiang Chen's side with the help of the 6 Realms Bulletin. You're back? What happened to that old thing? Did you save him? Jiang Chen asked. He was sealed for too long, Nian Chang'e said. His blood qi is dried up, but it's not a big problem. He'll recover after some rest. As she spoke, Nian Chang'e gave the 6 Realms Bulletin to Jiang Chen. She said, my master said it's up to you to decide where to go and what to choose. Oh! Jiang Chen was startled, and he looked at the 6 Realms Bulletin in his hand. He was quite confused. What was going on? Was Taoist Heavenspan telling him to leave the blood path? But if that was the case, why would he say something like that? Did your master say anything else? Jiang Chen asked. No. Nian Chang'e shook her head, her eyes flickering with confusion. She opened her mouth, but didn't say anything. He gave me the 6 Worlds Bulletin, and then let me make my own choice. Jiang Chen murmured, not quite understanding what Taoist Heavenspan was trying to say. With the 6 Worlds Bulletin, Jiang Chen could leave the blood path right now. Taoist Heavenspan naturally knew that. But why did he say something like that? Jiang Chen thought for a moment and frowned. Could it be that I'm supposed to stay in the blood path? That I have something to do? But what was it that Jiang Chen had to do? Take your time. I'm going to the North Abyss. Nian Chang'e said. There are still 2 people in the blood path that haven't been rescued. I won't go with you, Jiang Chen said. You can go to Mu Yud. He has a lot of cushions. That bastard. Nian Chang'e's face darkened. Hearing Mu Yud's name, she felt very uncomfortable. After all, Nian Chang'e's body was still in Mu Yud's hands. He had no idea where that bastard had hidden his corporeal body. Wait until I get my body back. I'll teach that bastard a lesson, Nian Chang'e said in a deep voice. Then, Nian Chang'e left. Jiang Chen still sat there, quietly comprehending the bloodline seal. Time also slowly passed by. This continued until half a month later. On this day, Jiang Chen was still comprehending the bloodline seal when he heard a few screams. At this moment, Jiang Chen suddenly stood up and saw a giant beast as tall as a mountain roaring in the distance. In its mouth, there was half a corpse. What the hell is this? Jiang Chen frowned. There was such a ferocious beast in the blood path. It had the head of an ox, the body of a tiger, the aura of a dragon, a pair of wings on its back, and a snow-white body with purple lightning-like patterns. Jiang Chun had never seen such a ferocious beast before. Moreover, this great era was different from the past. In today's world, it was almost impossible to see a ferocious beast that could grow to such a size. This ferocious beast looked more like something from a few eras in the past. Little Taoist, come back here. At this moment, the ferocious beast roared into the sky. Its eyes were red and full of blood vessels. It was very big, but it was very fast. It seemed to be chasing someone. Boss, come and save me. Suddenly, Jiang Chun heard a very familiar voice. He took a closer look and realized that the person that the giant beast was chasing was Mu Yud. This bastard. Did he get into trouble again? Don't come over. Jiang Chun was shocked. He turned his back on her immediately. Are you kidding me? That ferocious beast had the cultivation of heavenly decay stage 5. No one knew what kind of ferocious beast it was, asking Jiang Chun to save Mu Yud. What's the difference between that and suicide? This is an ancient ferocious beast, big heavenly tiger. Mu Yud shouted as he rushed toward Jiang Chun. His face was pale, and he was holding a miniature big heavenly tiger in his arms. Jiang Chun's mouth twitched. He stared at the miniature big heavenly tiger in Mu Yud's arms and asked, "You stole someone's baby?" Chapter 579. I borrowed it, Mu Yud said solemnly. Borrowed? Jiang Chun's mouth twitched in disbelief. How could you borrow such a thing? Even if you borrowed it, why would the big heaven tiger chase after you? Quick, help me! Mu Yud was anxious. The big heaven tiger had chased after him, but it refused to let go of the little heaven tiger. If you let go of the little heaven tiger, why would it chase after you? Jiang Chun said angrily, but he still launched an attack. He exerted the distance, shrinking to an inch. He rolled up Mu Yud and flew away. When the big heaven tiger saw that, its eyes turned red. It roared, and its body shrunk rapidly. The wings on its back tore through the void, and it disappeared into thin air like a ray of light. When it appeared again, it was standing in front of Jiang Chun. Jiang Chun's expression changed drastically. He pushed Mu Yud away and said, "This is between you and him. It has nothing to do with me." F***ck. Mu Yud cursed and was dumbfounded. He did not expect Jiang Chun to be so disloyal. Hand it over. The big heaven tiger turned into a middle-aged man wearing a tiger fur coat. His eyes were filled with killing intent, but there was also fear in them. That was because his son was in the hands of Mu Yud. Don't do anything rash. Do you believe that I will kill him? Mu Yud was desperate. He grabbed the little heaven tiger's neck and said, "Let me go. I will return it to you in the future." Are you dreaming? Kill him, and all of you will die. The big heaven tiger shouted angrily. However, despite that, the big heaven tiger did not dare to attack. After all, the little heaven tiger was his only son. The big heaven tiger tribe had existed since ancient times. Nowadays, it was rare to see this tribe. There were less than 10 big heaven tigers in the entire world. Now, on this bloody path, he had finally found a partner with great difficulty and had given birth to a descendant. He viewed this descendant as a precious treasure. So how could he allow any harm to befall his descendant? I can take him away from the bloody path. Mu Yud said, "You were born in the heaven-flowing realm, and you have the bloodline seal of the heaven-flowing realm. Although you can walk freely on the blood path, you will never be able to walk out of it. Are you going to let your descendants stay on the bloody path with you? Do nothing for the rest of your life?" Mu Yud said seriously. Bullshit. The big heaven tiger roared angrily. I'm a living being from the primordial age. So what if I have the bloodline seal of the flowing heaven realm in my body? Is there any place on this bloody path that I can't go? Moreover, if I want to leave the bloody path, who can stop me? The great heavenly tiger was very strong. It was at the 5 decay of the celestial being. Moreover, as an ancient ferocious beast, its might reached the heavens. Perhaps it was just as he said. If he wanted to leave the bloody path, it would be a very simple matter. However, to the big heaven tiger, compared to the godless continent, the bloody path was undoubtedly safer. At least in this place, the big heaven tiger was almost invincible. In this way, his descendant would not be in any danger at all. However, who would have thought that Muyudo would appear this time? This bastard not only robbed tombs, but he also stole someone else's descendant. Jiang Chun could not stand it anymore. He felt that Muyudo was too wicked. He only had one descendant, and you still stole it. Return it to him, Jiang Chun said in a low voice. Apologize again. I have a use for him, Muyudo said softly and looked very serious. He said, I won't make things difficult for him, but I must leave him alone. Why? Jiang Chun was stunned. How could it be reasonable to steal someone else's descendant? What use is it? You probably won't cook it and eat it, right? The big heaven tiger tribe has the primordial bloodline, Muyudo said. Do you know what the primordial bloodline means? I don't. Jiang Chun shook his head. How could he know so much? In the primordial era, living beings on the godless continent could become gods, Muyudo said. Jiang Chun couldn't help but roll his eyes when he heard that. Since the beginning of time, people on the godless continent could not become gods. However, Muyudo told Jiang Chun that in the primordial era, there were living beings on the godless continent who could become gods without undergoing the divine tribulation. They were known as the gods of the land. They were the most powerful living beings on the godless continent. If we can obtain a trace of the primordial bloodline, we can become gods on the godless continent, Muyudo said excitedly. Do you know what it means to be a god of the land? It means that we are invincible on the godless continent. Invincible? So what? Jiang Chun asked. We will become gods sooner or later. Isn't it the same wherever we become gods? Invincible on the godless continent? Can't you do whatever your enemy wants to do? Muyudo said. Are there any forbidden areas that you can't enter? Why would I go to the forbidden areas? Jiang Chun pursed his lips. Moreover, when my cultivation reaches the heavenly decay, 5th stage, I will be invincible on the godless continent too. What do you know? Muyudo became anxious when he saw that Jiang Chun was not listening. He did not continue to explain to Jiang Chun. He hugged the little heavenly tiger tightly and looked at the big heavenly tiger, saying, I will take your son away today. How dare you? The big heavenly tiger was furious, but it did not dare to attack Muyudo. I only want a trace of his bloodline. Muyudo said, Don't worry, I won't hurt him at all. How dare you? The big heavenly tiger was furious. Muyudo's words meant that he wanted to take away the bloodline of the big heavenly tiger tribe. If the bloodline was taken away, the big heavenly tiger tribe would no longer be the only tribe. Most importantly, the bloodline was determined by the heavens and was engraved by reincarnation. It was something that every tribe possessed. This thing could not be exchanged, nor could it be lost. Everything had its cause and effect and reincarnation. If the bloodline of a tribe was taken away, it would lead to many causes and effects. Some causes and effects could not be seen, but once it happened, no one could stop it. It might even cause the extinction of the entire big heavenly tiger tribe. You better think carefully. Muyudo was also anxious. He decided to go all out and said, At worst, we'll die together today. The big heavenly tiger was shocked by Muyudo's words. After all, the big heavenly tiger tribe was on the verge of extinction. Now that they had finally given birth to a descendant, they could not afford to lose him. However, if the bloodline was taken away by someone else, the consequences would be severe. How about this? I will take a trace of his bloodline, and I promise that I will not pass it on to a second person. Muyudo said, This is my bottom line. How dare you talk about your bottom line with me? The big heavenly tiger was furious. You stole my descendant, and you still want to talk about your bottom line with me? Don't you know that this is the time for me to talk about my bottom line? Wait, at this moment, Jiang Chun suddenly said with a smile, Since you want to take away the bloodline, then, I want to share too. You bastard. You. At this moment, Muyudo and the big heavenly tiger were stunned. Jiang Chun, who had been silent all this while, was still righteous. Now he was thinking, You're tuning in to the Warrior Lord YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.